Can you hear us?
You're on now.
Can you now?
Whereas the Powhatan County School Board has convened a closed meeting on this date pursuant to an affirmative recorded vote and in accordance with the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act, and whereas Section 2.2-3712D of the Code of Virginia requires a certification by the school board that such closed meeting was conducted in conformity with Virginia law, now therefore be it resolved that the Powhatan School Board hereby certifies that to the best of each member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements by Virginia law were discussed in the closed meeting to which this certification applies, and only public business matters as were identified in the motion convening the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered. Aye.
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 Right. Now, moving on to the next item, which is approval of this personnel docket.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Dr. Taylor.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the hiring of the candidate that was presented to us for the high school.
Madam Chair, I second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right. This workshop is adjourned. 8:56.
What did she say?
We're talking about, like it says, board remarks, whether or not we should save that to the end or do it on the front end.
Oh. Well, it looks like they have it on both.
In the past, last year, I don't think we did it. So I did not. I scratched a couple thoughts down yesterday when I saw the agenda. But
Yeah.
I put a lot of thought into it.
Because it-
Allison's back in cahoots with Lucas, or did she never leave that nest?
She hasn't Halverson hasn't reached out to me in several weeks, months. The last thing she sent me.
Good morning. I'd like to call the budget workshop number 1 to order this morning, and let the record show that all board members, along with superintendent and our clerk, are here, along with other staff members. We are glad to have you. And we are now need an approval of our agenda.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve the agenda as is.
Just a second.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, and moving right along. Opening remarks by board members and our superintendent. Mrs. Ward, would you like to start?
Sure. Good morning, everyone. Just want to thank everybody for coming out this morning and spending the day with us to go over budget needs. I would like to just to state as we go throughout the process for the next day or two, some things that I was looking for and how we might be able to align our budget in regards to. Number one was to stay focused on our learning loss, on our students, and that we are able to project the majority of our funds to make sure that our children are being educated and that we're focusing those learning losses. The other thing that I really would like for us to focus on too is the discipline in our schools. I know that these behavioral specialists that we have and that we're considering, and some other issues that have been growing, we need to focus on that so that we can have a conducive environment, learning environment for our students. So I appreciate, as I reviewed the proposed budget, seeing some of those things being addressed there as well. And also, as far as the middle school girls soccer team, I appreciate for that information that was brought to our attention. I know that we have talked to many members of the community over the last year, and would like to see, that work out as well. There's some other things, substitute contract that I'll be looking at. I'm not sure if that has been beneficial to us, and would love to see more data on that. And the computer usage for our students, somehow that I know we were looking to spend more money on buying more computers for our students, but maybe not necessarily do we need to have that many computers for all of our students all the time. And then, of course, we also have compensation for our teachers that are having to work through their planning period. So maybe when we are working with the substitutes, and if we make a different decision as a board, we would have additional funds for that so that we can help alleviate some of our teachers and the stressors there. And at this point, those are all the comments that I have for opening.
Dr. Taylor?
Madam Chair, I don't think I have necessarily any comments. I'm just glad to be here and appreciate this process that we do every year, and it's thorough and it's good, and so I'm excited about getting started.
Thank you. Mrs. Wade?
I don't have any comments this morning.
All right, Mrs. Hurt?
Well, good morning, and the responsibility of a school board is to be fiduciary, take fiscal responsibility of the taxpayers, because in Powhatan County, we know there's over 30,000 residents. There's like 3,000 kids, give or take, in our school system. So it's not just the parents that we have to answer to, we have to answer to the people that are paying the bills. So that's very important. So I hope staff knows that when a school board member asks questions, that it's not trying to criticize you, it's just to understand so we can answer back to the taxpayers on where their money is going. Michelle pointed some of the concerns that I have as well. I do want to see a good analysis of the subcontract. I know that a lot of money has gone into that, and I want to make sure that that is a wise use, that possibly there are other options for subs, but that needs to be evaluated because that's a pretty big chunk of money, I believe about $750,000. I want to look at teachers being compensated for during their planning period when they are in a sub capacity. Learning loss is critical, and I've done a lot of research, and I'm not a trained educator by any means. You guys have some of you have a lot more knowledge than I do, but the articles and things that I've been researching are pointing to that summer school is not always the best solution for the learning loss. So I didn't know in the budget if we need to have more interventionists during the school day to work with these kids. I just want to make sure. Solely, I want to support alternative education and get that alternative classroom and behavioral specialist. I know it's a lot of money, but I think it's very much needed in the classrooms for a better learning environment and a better work environment for our teachers. I wholly will support the girls' soccer team. I'll stand firm on that. Computers, the kids are taking them home, they're getting damaged, and maybe we need to look hard at not sending the computers home, trying to get more books. I see in the budget where we're getting some math books. That makes me really happy. The recent issue that I've been getting a lot of calls and actual visits about, are the situation in the high school bathroom. And I don't know if it's a CIP issue, or if we need to hire bathroom monitors, or if we need to get like the old-fashioned Sharps container in the bathrooms, or the kids can put the vapes in so they're not putting them in the toilets. But we need to come up with something, and all these things that we come up with cost money, so that should be reflected in the budget that we present, I can talk, to the Board of Supervisors. And I really want to thank staff. I've gone through the budget book. You can see I've got all my little Post-it notes. Y'all have done a really good job and answered a lot of questions. And as I said, when I personally ask a question, it's not that I'm trying to be critical. I just want to understand better so I can answer to people, so I can understand. So thank you very much for the job that you've done, and love the book.
All right. My comment for everyone is that this is our budget process. We go through it line by line, that anyone that's interested in knowing where money goes, you can actually see it very clearly, I think, and transparently. And all of these things that have been mentioned are on the minds of all board members, and we just want to make Powhatan County Schools the best it can be. And let's get started. Dr. Tigan?
Just really quickly, if I may, I'll just sort of roll in mine
Yes, go
into
ahead.
my second item so that we can get going, is that really the goal here that staff has been charged with, and hopefully you'll see that it's evident, is that the things that are in our budget are directly aligned to our strategic plan, whether it's academic excellence, whether it's leveraging talent, whether it's family and community engagement, or student safety. That is, we are trying to make sure that where we're putting our resources are directly aligned to our strategic plan. And with that, I'll say thank you to staff. They've put a lot of work into getting to this point, whether it's their own departmental budgets or the finance department and HR department pulling together data for the book. It's a lot of work. It's what we do every year, starting in December. to really pull it together. And so I appreciate the hours that have been spent, and hopefully that helps us as we move through the process. So thank you.
Right, and on to C.
Okay, if you'd like me to roll into item C,
Yes, please.
that's the comparison of the PCPS staffing levels to the SOQ funding, which are the standards of quality that we've heard so much about since the JLARC study a couple of years ago. And we showed the information last year. You know, we are not, we're not seeing that great of a difference last year to this year, but you can still see the number of positions that we have to run the school system, of which, based on the budget, we're indicating to you there are still needs within the county. We have almost 220 positions less, more than what the SOQs actually supports. And what that means is that there's not funding coming from the state. They're still relying on the standards of quality that were set in 2008, 2009 when we went through the recession. And they've never, they've just started last year really coming back after the JLARC study to look at that. And there is no school division that operates under the number of positions that are funded through the standards of quality. And so you can see here the summary of where we have additional positions to be able to make the school system operate and function. And so just wanted to reiterate that. We have continued for that to be one of your legislative priorities, has been to see the state fund the public education at the level that it needs to. And so we look forward to whether there'll be any progress this year in the second year of the biennium, or whether we're status quo until the next biennium.
Great. And next item, D, review of elementary school budgets.
Yes, for review of the elementary school budget, Mrs. Jarman and Dr. Martin. I was gonna say, we're a little ahead of schedule, which is very unusual. If everyone wants to look at tab 8.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
while we're waiting, can I ask a quick question? Mrs. Jarman or Dr. Tigan, how many kids are in each elementary school, so I can have that in front of me right now? I don't have to have exact, you can just give me close numbers.
It's in there.
Yeah.
It was in there, update, wasn't it?
Yeah. Hold on, I'll pull it out of the update.
Mrs. Hurd, it was in the updates.
If you give me just 1 second, I'll pull it up.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. Just have it electronically. Just takes a second to get down to it. And blow it up big enough to read. I fly by it. The Flat Rock Elementary enrollment is 679. Well, it could, it's, I was gonna say, you can read your,
Yeah, up-to-date number, 657 for Flat Rock.
Thank you.
And mine were related to capacity, so it included the pre-K students, which yours would not have.
Would you mind, while you're there, also giving us the numbers for the middle school and the high school?
They're not gonna have the mics. It's for the community watching, is what I'm thinking.
And the high school.
Thank you much.
What was the middle?
The middle was 944.
Okay.
Good morning. How are you, Dr. Martin? Great.
Do you ladies feel like you need microphones?
They do feel good.
Yeah.
Yes.
Already in the division budget, some things that came up that were already proposed through the SIP, so we went through to see where everything fit. So you'll see that all three elementaries are proposing null budgets. You may notice there is a change. The audit funds have been moved out from the school line items into the division budget, so you will notice that change. Also, there was some reallocation within each of the budgets to provide opportunities for professional learning for assistant principals and principals as we work on growing our own leadership, to attend the VAESP, which is Virginia Elementary School Principals Conference. That's an annual state conference that takes place that we've typically not participated in, so we're looking for next year to be able to support our leadership teams in participating in that. Reflect currently in the budgets is the teachers did request additional color copiers in different areas of the building from what was changed over to the new copiers that we had this year. So RICO has come out to meet with each of the schools to look at the needs with the current copiers and to look at how that might be adjusted. So those are the updates I have from elementary.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
tell me about the copy machine again, about
So
that.
there are certain copy machines that are color copiers. We also have some that are black and white
Right.
because, of course, the color copiers are more expensive.
Yeah.
So we communicate that those color copies are used really for the instructional needs, typically at the lower grades or perhaps when you're looking at maps or science and social studies where the color makes a difference. So we did, at all of the buildings, there was a request from teachers to be able to add at least one or two at the larger schools.
So we don't have a color copier at all?
We do. So there is. So at Pocahontas Elementary, there's one color copier that teachers can have access to in the main office area. So everybody, if they need color copiers, has to come there. Whereas we also have copiers on the 1st and 5th grade hallway. So
On the
re-
black, they're just the black and
Yes.
white?
So the request was to have color copiers there.
Do you have a dollar value amount
We
on?
don't. So we met, Rico came out, they had this long explanation that I'm sure Mrs. Holloway understands more about how we're leasing units, similar to leasing a car. It was a long explanation about it, but he did look at how, since it would adjust our, balance out our needs. So he came to see the current numbers that we're running on each of the machines and how we could maybe adjust our current contract
Because
to
the
not
con-
have much of an additional cost.
Because the contract is based on the number of copies you make, I know from a prior job
Yes, and also
I
it's
had.
based on the number of
Copiers.
machines that you
Yes.
have, and we can't trade. I think we were hoping that we could trade out a machine, but it doesn't sound like that is an option.
Now, a prior job that I had, there were machines that were color and black and white.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a cheaper price than trying to have a black machine and a color machine.
Yes. So that's
we
what
didn't write our-
I was hoping we could swap. They said for some reason we can't, but there's a smaller unit that they thought could go next to the larger units, which would essentially serve the same purpose and may not have too much of an increased cost for us.
Because copy machine costs have gotten skyrocketed for many organizations I know. So is it because we're into our contract that we've got to wait to contract renewal time to make changes?
They were going to propose that yes, Rico is gathering the information so we can look at any adjustments that may be needed to our current contract.
Okay.
Dr. Martin, how is this going to be monitored or explained to your staff as to the use of the color copiers?
So we did let them know that color copies are for those instructional purposes that have a need. We're also getting reports based on, so since the copiers are now badged, so we use a badge every time
Right.
anybody makes a copy, we get reports on the number of copies being made, and we are looking for anomalies that exist within grade levels or color, so then we can follow up with individuals to make sure that we are being fiscally responsible with the use as well.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Dr. Taylor.
Dr. Martin, just on the same vein of, where do I find that in the budget? Is that each individual school has a line item for that? Or is it in the funding?
It's all right now under instruction, and because we don't have a whole year of history yet with Rico, we're keeping it centralized, and as we pay the bills, we move it to the schools. So I don't have a whole year of history yet, but it's in the instructional budget, not in the individual schools.
Okay, so
But when we pay the bills, it is charged to the individual schools, so we can see who's spending what.
And when would we get a guesstimate as to what this request might cost?
I can call Rico, I have not heard back from him yet on that. That just happened recently, right after Christmas break.
Right.
So I'll let you know.
so
The sooner,
Mrs. Halle, when you say it's charged to the school, you're just saying you're keeping a record of how much each school's, but that's not reflected in each individual school's budget. So whatever we're talking about as far as the increase, it's not going to be reflected on your individual
not-
school budget.
correct. It's not
It's going to be
individual
reflected on that line item in an
Correct,
instructional.
for right now, but it was a request that came through the elementary budget process.
Okay, that just helps us understand where to find it.
Madam Chair, has Rico been good on servicing? Because I know an organization I was with, they were very good when machines jammed or broke, that their service call was typically within hours of the same day they showed up.
We've had a very good experience with them coming out very quickly, and also we have luckily not had very many. They are newer machines, but even so, they get a lot of use, and we have not had many issues with them, but they've been very quick to respond.
Yeah, the organization I was with, when we switched to Rico, it was night and day difference. And less paper jams. And I know this sounds crazy, but when someone's running a big job and it you can go through a big chunk of paper that you
Yeah.
end up throwing in the trash.
Yeah, and I have noticed part of it with it being badged, because you also have to badge the print release. You don't just print straight to it, so there's less of that paper just existing at the copier that no one's claimed or forgot they print or run multiple copies. So I do think the new system with them with the badging has been better for that as well.
Well, I hope the teachers don't feel like that we're being like, not trusting of them and their judgment, that we're like being the policeman of the copy machine, that they're in fear of using it. They feel okay, they don't feel.
Yeah, and I think that's where their request came from, that since we have the one based on their use, they said it'd be, easier if they could have one closer to where they are.
Thank you.
any other questions?
Madam Chair, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Dr. Martin, every one of our schools are going down in budget, so I guess that's a good thing, but assure us that you have everything that you need to have good instruction. And I mean, I trust you wouldn't bring that if there wasn't taking place, but it's good that you're under, or you're at least at budget, but you're under budget on each one of those by a couple $1,000s.
So the reason for the change is the pulling off of the auditing, but we did, when we went through, we carefully went through each of the requests that the teachers have, and we were able to meet those requests, whether it exists in school budgets, it was something that was currently budgeted, or it's something that fell into a different area, such as the copiers. Another one that you'll see coming from instruction would be the request for reading specialist support. That's also gonna live in a different budget area. So when we went through all of the requests, we were able to meet the needs that the teachers had requested.
Yeah, well, I mean, we like to see that. Obviously, it makes it easier to try to balance a budget, but in the age of inflation, it's hard to understand how we can not have some sort of bump there. So I'm just want to make sure we have everything we need.
We had a lot of one-year cost things that also took place this year with the implementation of HMH and Spire, also adjusting to the new math unit. So a lot of things that were one-time purchased this year are going to sustain over several years. So there were a couple things that came up that don't cost as much. So for instance, the vast majority of the Spire kits that we have are going to meet our needs year over year. They're not consumables. The manipulatives that we use will be maintained. But the teachers have requested for HMH their anchor charts that they use throughout the year, but they'd like them larger on the walls so they can reference them. That's relatively a low cost. So when you trade out the things that had to be purchased this year for what we're looking at now that we're moving into year 2, the overall cost of those items is lower.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I just want to confirm, I know you have spoken for the 3 elementary schools, that there's nothing coming specifically from other elementary schools? Just the same? They're not?
Yeah.
They're nodding that they're all good. Just
Yep.
want to,
Yeah. The printer. And we
the
did
printer,
also.
I know
we-
that they're all
Yep.
together on each building with that
And we met
need.
together as a team as well to look at alignment across needs for elementary.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on. We'll be out here about lunchtime.
Well, I heard,
It's not, we're moving on. We're skipping it.
yeah.
All right, review of your administrative budgets. Ms. Holloway, Ms. Allison. You want to call Ms. Holloway, Ms. Allison? Come on down.
She's right there. She's coming.
Dr. Taylor, to answer your question about the copiers, the total that's in the budget right now for the schools and the departments is $230,817. You just don't see it on their spreadsheets because I didn't put it on their individual spreadsheets, but that's the total.
But that's handled in instructions line item, not in,
Most of it is instruction. There's a little bit for this building as under administration, and then there's a little tiny, like $2,000 amount in transportation for their copiers. So we're trying to break it down between the right appropriation categories, and then as I pay the bills, I'll charge them to the individual school, but I have to move the money each time because I didn't have anything to start with as to who was gonna spend what.
is paper included in that, or is that just the contract with
Paper
RICO?
separate.
Okay,
There's another line item for that.
yes.
said the total was 230,817. School board's there, right? You wanna go first? You want me to go first?
You ahead of it,
Doesn't matter to me.
8,
Okay.
9.
but it's in 8.
All right, we're gonna start with human resources budget. It's under the same tab, they're just under a different order. Yes, ma'am.
We're staying in the
sort
same
them.
section.
Yes,
here.
same section.
And HR is a couple sections ahead of school board and superintendent's office.
Keep going. Keep going.
I still see people flipping, so I'm going
Yes.
to
Anyway, you're good. Here, can he take my, did he not find it?
No, he got it.
Okay.
He's good.
My big phone's got me.
Understand.
Okay.
All right, I think we're all, wait a minute. Do you have it, or are you still looking? No, that's okay, we're ahead of schedule. Yes.
Shh, don't say it too loud.
One out.
Don't say that yet. I'll jinx us. Where's it before? Section 8, and it's before classroom technology. It's the section before that.
I got special ed, student services.
It's between instruction and instructional technology.
Made a note to self, next year we'll have page numbers. For that section anyway.
Yes.
It's right, the very next white page should be it, of where your finger is.
That one.
It was so tiny.
I know.
There's only one little page.
It is.
That's a good thing.
Good morning. I'm here to represent Human Resources for the budget for FY 2026. The couple of things I don't have any control over. The first couple are the retiree health insurance and the contribution to Maestro. Those are just numbers that Ms. Holloway puts in there for me that is just controlled by, what we need to contribute for our employees. So that is not something that Human Resources has any control over. Purchase services for the $60,000. That is for our social services background check, our fingerprinting, our insurance consultant. We pay a third party for a hybrid administrator plan. We pay that once a quarter. So that's what those funds are. It has gone down some because we have contracted with ESS, and that's part of what they took on for our sub costs. So we don't have to do those any longer for the substitutes. So the advertising and public notice, those are just things that we have to do either legally or for recruiting. So a lot of times for our job fair that I have to do some advertising in newspapers, and I know that we don't do a lot of advertising in newspapers anymore, but we do the Farmville Herald for that, and some online things do cost us. So it's just for those different kind of things that we need to do for recruiting. The travel and conference is for the VASPA conference that we go to, and for any other conference that we would need to attend. It has gone down in the last few years, and I don't think that probably the 2,000 is a little high, but with travel these days, you don't know. We don't do any out-of-state conferences. They're all in-state things that we attend. The local mileage is just if traveling up and down the road to the different schools. The miscellaneous dues, we do have to pay dues for the VASPA and RASPA. Those are the local HR in the community. The miscellaneous other and the materials and supplies, those are, the miscellaneous other has got to do with a lot of our retirement celebration that we do, the retirement dinner that we do, which is also our Teacher of the Year celebrations also, so it's retirement and Teacher of the Year celebrations. So we have cut the cost on those because we held it at the high school last year. We have our students perform, but we still have costs associated with buying the gifts for the retirees, and that goes up and down depending on how many we have, and we provide the Teachers of the Year with gifts and flowers, so there's cost associated with that. And the materials and supplies is we need ID badges. Those are for staff gifts. So in March, when we celebrate Teacher Week, we do give gifts to all staff. So the last year we gave like a Stanley Cup. The year before that, we gave backpacks. So when you're buying for 650 to 700 employees, that does add up quite a bit. So we do like to provide them once a year with a nicer gift from the school division to show our appreciation. The other times we can give smaller. Next week for Valentine's Day, we're giving little treats. But when you're purchasing for a large amount of employees, to get them something that they would like, it does cost a little bit of money. So that's what that budget is for. I know that Ms. Hurt mentioned ESS. I just wanted to let you know that I am going to be talking to the board about that tomorrow, and I do have a presentation next week at the board meeting on numbers and things like that. I didn't think that this was the place to talk about it, to go into the details of it, but I do have a presentation already prepared to answer your questions on it. Okay. And then
I wanted to point out in her budget, the two items that are highlighted in yellow at the bottom, we see those increased, but those have to do with additional requests that have been made that we have put into the budget that we will be presenting to the Board of Supervisors as needs. So one of the things that we've asked for, and Terry and I asked for this together, is a benefits specialist. With the increase in all the hybrid retirement calculations and those kind of things that need to be done, and with her retiring, we're going to need a specialist that understands the VRS and how all that works. So that was an ask from both of us, because it will help both of our departments. And every time we ask for an additional position, we put in about $1,800 in operating costs, which would cover a computer, a desk, a chair, supplies that they would need. That's just an estimate that we come up with. So every new position, we would ask for extra $1,800 above the salary and benefits to cover those expenditures. She also asked, when she asked for this last year and she didn't get it, was a licensure renewal fee that we would pay that on behalf of staff who have to pay that, and that was a $2,000 ask, so not a lot, but it is in that number. Anything in yellow has those numbers included.
that is the $50 renewal fee for teachers when they, now it is a 10-year license, so, but I ask for it every year, we would like to be able to pay for it. So far, we have not been able to. We do pay for it, but we have the teacher reimburse us. So we have an account set up with the Department of Ed that we put money in, but when we do their license renewal, they have to send a check to us for the $50. And just to speak a little bit on the benefit coordinator, I know you guys know a few years ago, there was a cut. So from our department, went from 4 people to 3 people, and that is when I took on the director of HR. And I did bring a lot of the benefits knowledge. That was my position as assistant director. I handled the benefits for the division, which includes your health insurance, your optional benefits, the VRS. All of that came through me, and I continued to do that. And when I took on the director of HR, so now I feel like it's a good time, since I am retiring, and that we bring somebody back in who can take that role on and take that off of the director of human resources, because the person that you're going to get in is probably not going to have that experience. So we're going to need to bring in somebody who can just manage those things. The hybrid disability came in after January 1st, 2015. There's a disability component that goes with that. So as you can imagine, most of our employees now, are a large number, have switched from the Plan 1, Plan 2 to the hybrid. So they're eligible for a short-term and a long-term disability program. The short-term is managed by the school division, and it is becoming more and more cumbersome that we have to keep up with. You know, there's just forms and everything you have to fill out for them to get it processed, and then you have to work with payroll and the pay, because we do pay them while they're on short-term disability, and then it does transfer after 125 days to a long-term, but that still has to be managed by us through VRS, and there's just lots of different things. So that is going to become more and more an issue for the school division of who's going to do that, who's going to handle it, and so that's part of what was moved to finance. So we like to take that away from finance and put it back in HR, along with the workers' comp that was moved, and that could come back into HR, which is really a human resource job, really should be in our department. So that benefits coordinator would take on all of those roles and free up the director of human resources to do really what they probably will spend most of their time doing, higher upper level roles. So that is the request, and so it's going to take some off of finance, and it will move some things back into HR. So we feel like it is a high priority. It should be a high priority for the school division to bring that role back into our department.
And I'll speak to that as well, because the person that we have in our office that handles a lot of that is really supposed to be learning other financial roles, like backup for AP, helping over in that area, because Ronnie does all of that by herself. So that would free Abby up to be able to start learning some of the finance side of things, which we just have not had time to do, especially going to a new system.
I would say, let's remember to not use acronyms, so they may not know that AP is accounts payable.
Okay, sorry, yeah, accounts payable, yes, which is a huge responsibility, but she does it all now by herself. So we're just trying to put things back,
Redundancies.
right, yes.
So there's
and
backup
Get people to
and-
be backups for other people. We don't have that right now. So that was another reason for that ask. My budget is a couple back from HR. You go,
Madam Chair.
Yeah, before we
I'm
move to
sorry.
finance.
Yes, I'm
Let's
sorry.
ask some questions about each other.
I have one more request that is through. I would like to waive the tuition for out-of-county employees. So I ask for that every year too. That is a revenue, it is not an expenditure that comes in. But when it is a recruiting tool that would be very helpful for us when we have people that are local, Chesterfield or Henrico, Amelia, Goochland, that want to then come to work for us, but bring students to make it easier for them to come to Powhatan to work, and we would like to waive that tuition for them.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Dr. Taylor.
Mrs. Allison, is that included in these yellow figures?
yes, that's a loss of revenue,
It's
and
a
it
loss
is reflected in our revenue law, that particular one. So our revenues went down, local revenue went down by, it would go down about $16,000. But it is in the budget right now. You won't see it on the expenditure side because it's not an expenditure for us, it's a revenue for us. Because they pay us. So we
Okay,
took that away from the revenue.
okay. And
But it
then
is in the budget, yes.
the other ask, the paying the license, is that in this
Yes,
yellow figure?
yes.
Yes.
Okay, because what we've asked is, we don't want to put in, what was the word we used last year?
Initiative.
Initiatives.
Right.
I was going to
No,
say
it is not
incentives.
an initiative. It is
We don't want
an-
initiatives.
it's an
We
ask.
want it in the budget, and
Yes, it is
when we're
in there.
asked about it, we
That's
can
why
say,
that
all right,
number
this
is
is what's
yellow. Yes,
reflected in
sir.
this number, okay.
Yes.
And then, I just lost my, oh, the retiree banquet and the Teacher of the Year banquet. Choose my words carefully here. I think it says a lot when we do an external venue that's nice. I personally would like for us to be willing to pay the money to do that. Not that the high school is not nice, and it was nice last year, but for me, the message is a little different when you go to an Independence golf course or something like that, like we've done in the past. I personally would like for us to put money into the budget to reward, especially our teachers of the years and those who have served and worked so hard for 30 years in school system and hopefully 30 years in ours, and to reward them with that sort of thing. So I would be all for figuring out how to get the money in there to make that happen year in and year out. That's my personal opinion, and would hope that my colleagues would support something like that.
It's very expensive.
I understand. I understand.
Could we get some numbers?
Yeah, I was gonna.
I can get some numbers for you. Last year, I know when we were moving from Independence, we checked several places in Powhatan, and a lot of them, we could have the facility, but then you would have to bring a caterer in, that they just don't have a full service, kind of like Independence did, to have it local. So when we started looking at the price of having a caterer, and then you had to buy all of the, or rent tables and chairs and cutlery and all of those kind of things, it got very, very expensive. So, but I can come back and we can do some more research.
Yeah.
And we reached out to several, and
There's a
several were very cost prohibitive.
there's a local wedding venue, Historic Whitewood, out on 711 that you might look at. They have an outdoor tent, so they do all kinds of stuff. You would have to do the same thing, bring in
Right.
caterers and all that stuff.
That's
but
where the cost starts coming in.
Sure. So I personally would like for us to figure out a way to make that happen so it's special, recognizing the cost. But until then, I guess this year we'll roll on at the high school.
We have, it's scheduled at the high school on April 23rd.
Yeah.
yes.
And our kids, the cutlery program did a phenomenal job. The food's excellent.
We did like that because we got to showcase our culinary program did provide the food, and the show choir did the entertainment, and we had the JROTC. So it is a good venue to showcase our students and what we have, instead of them having to travel somewhere. It was easier. And yes, Mr. Robertson's group did a fabulous job on
Yes, they did.
the food.
They absolutely did.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair.
Just a minute. I have a question. For your conference money, how many are attending?
It's usually 2 to 3. Well, there's 3 people in our department, so usually we do.
Everybody
for
goes.
We just went to the RASPA conference. It was supposed to be 3, but one was sick, so it was 2 of us. But to the VASPA conference, it's usually 2 people. The one in the fall is held in Harrisonburg at the JMU, and then the one in the spring is held at Virginia Beach. So usually we send 2 in the fall and just 1 in the spring. The springtime conference gives a lot of information on, from the DOE on their updates and licensure and all of that. So I make sure that I send my licensure specialist to that one so she gets all of those updates.
So that's a total of 3 conferences?
No, well, the one is just local. It was in Henrico. We just went for the day. There's 2 that are overnight conferences.
Okay, so a total of 3, though.
That,
1
and then
local,
we
2.
do virtual ones, but those are usually the ones that we attend, are the 3.
Thank you.
I would, Madam Chair,
Yes,
may I clarify one thing
yes.
that Dr. Taylor asked? Is that the items that they talk about that have been added, that's in the ask that's been shared with the county. So whether it's coming from within departmental, whether it's revenue, or whether it's positions, that they are all included in what has been shared with the county as our ask
Yes.
for this year for needed funds. I just want to be sure that,
As an overall number?
yes.
So we're not having a list of these things, but not calling them initiatives. We're saying,
Right,
this is the number we need.
everything is in the budget in its right
Okay,
place.
good.
All right.
Okay, so thank you.
Ms. Hurd?
Yes, and this is not our fault. This happened a while ago. The retiree health insurance, those are the folks that retire, that we give them money. And then once they get on Medicare at 65, then they're out of the program. Do we have any clue? I don't want you to spend a lot of time, how much longer it's going to be before we're totally out of that business?
Well, we have a group that was grandfathered in.
Yeah, I know.
So that's probably, I looked at the list the other day.
I mean, you don't have to be, just a rough
Right.
estimate.
It's probably about 30 that are still on there. Now, we do have some young ones who are like, that are still in their 50s, retired with their 30 years. So it's going to take a while for them
That's
to
what,
do
that's,
the
so we could be looking at it for another 15
And I can
years.
tell you though, since we've changed,
Ken.
since we changed the policy to the $12.50 per month per year of service, if you have over 10 years.
Right.
I have not had a lot of people who have left us that have signed up. I think I've had 2 people who have stayed on our plan since they retired before the age of 65,
Right.
and then they wanted to stay on our plan for a couple of years. They were not in their 50s, you know, they were closer to that 65 group. But it has definitely decreased the number that have stayed on our early retiree plan.
I had someone ask me when I thought we would be out of that business, and I guessed like
It's
10
gonna be
years.
probably 10, at least 10 years.
That's what I guessed. So was that a fair guess?
Yes.
Estimate to tell them?
Because you're probably, your earliest one that we had on there was probably 52 or 53.
Right.
So by the time, you know, it's been a couple of years since then, and by the time that they process out.
So we're probably looking at $500,000 each year for the next,
It'll go down.
it'll go down
you know,
some,
as
but
they
I
go
mean,
up.
it's still gonna be a chunk of money.
Yes, ma'am.
And there's nothing we can do about that. I've been asked that, but that's a contractual obligation that we cannot back out of.
Yes, ma'am. It would not be the right thing to do to,
Well, I don't think legally we could. It was a contractual obligation, so, yeah, okay. It's a big chunk of money, but it's what it is.
Yes, but it was one of the perks
It was a
for
benefit.
working in Powhatan County for a large amount of years. And so we felt that it was important that we continued that because so many people stayed here for that very reason. So to pull the plug on that was just inhumane.
right, it was a retention benefit for staff who did stay with us for a long period of time.
Yes. So I don't regret that decision, not one bit. The old adage, pay now, pay later. And I think it's still a good thing that we have this. All right. Any other questions for these 2 ladies at this point in
I
time?
haven't gone yet.
Okay. Well, I just somehow or another think we're just getting off too easy. The big shoe is going to drop on us real soon, and I think it's like coming now.
Oh, with me?
Yeah.
I hope not. My budget, there are a lot of items that are division-wide in my budget that used to be in different places when I got here, and I have moved them to a centralized budget. And the very first line item on my page is $50,000 under purchase services. That is for Keystone, which is our new financial system. Then audit services, as you heard Dr. Martin say, I have pulled all the money from the schools and plugged that into my budget as an audit, because audit is a financial thing and it should be under fiscal services. So we took it away from the schools and put it in my budget. So that's not really an increase, it's just being reallocated. And that's for all the school activity fund audits that are done. And then there's a different audit that's done on OPEB, which is other post-employment benefits, and they analyze like what our liability would be if everybody decided to retire at one time and that kind of thing. So that is also an audit. I consider that an audit. So all of that money is in that number there for the 21,000. And then we don't do any conferences as of right now. We have local mileage for people that go back and forth to schools. Ronnie going back and forth to the post office and the treasurer's office. Sarah doing payroll back and forth to the treasurer's office, that kind of thing. So it's not very much. We pay $750 for us to belong to ASBO and VASBO, which are financial school board organizations that we are a part of. And then miscellaneous other, we pay for forms for like the 941 forms and the 1099s and the W-2s and all that good stuff. So that money, that's what that covers. The miscellaneous cost is some fees that we've had to pay. I didn't put a note about what that is, but as you can see, we spent $9,000 in 2024, so I'm putting a level $9,000 in that line item. And we spent a lot more last year because we implemented Keystone, so that's why you see my expenditures going down, because that was a one-time setup, getting all that set up fee. Then the things that are in my budget that are division-wide are unemployment insurance. So if we have somebody who files unemployment, that is a fiscal thing, so I put that under my budget. Workers' compensation insurance is a benefit as well as a financial side of things, so all that's in my budget. Now, it used to be, a lot of the stuff used to be budgeted up in instruction, and I didn't think that was the proper place for that, so I moved it. I budget for leave payouts for the whole division in my budget, so as people retire, the money sits in this account, and when we need it to pay them out for their sick leave and vacation leave, I move it from here to whatever line item they're getting paid out of. Then copier rental, that's the part we were talking about, Dr. Taylor. That's the part that's in the administration budget for this building, the $57,000. Then the school's part is in instruction. So that's the copier rental for this building. That used to all, if you, some of you weren't here then, but it used to be all budgeted under facilities, which I didn't think was the proper place for that either. So we've broken it down now and put some in instruction, some in administration, some in transportation, where the expenditures actually hit. And then Terry and I share a line for software, and that's all of the different programs that we use as a HR and a finance department, the actual pay of the software itself. And you can see that went down because I moved Keystone up to my purchase services and took it out of that line. And that's pretty much my budget, if you have any questions.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Dr. Taylor.
Mrs. Holloway, on Keystone, where are we as far as being on track to pay
Well,
bi-monthly?
we had hoped that we could do that next year in 2026, but we're still working out as we go through the year, like getting through W-2s was pretty rough because we had to pull in data from the old system, convert it to the new system, make sure it all balanced. So we just didn't feel like we need one more year on the monthly payroll, and then I think we'll be good because we would have worked out the whole kinks and been in the system for a whole year. I talked to my staff, we didn't feel like we were quite ready to do the semi-monthly pay, maybe one more year.
Okay.
But yeah, it's coming. We just had to get comfortable with what we were doing monthly before we could start doing it twice a month.
Okay.
That is one of my department goals that I'm not going to meet for next year, but hopefully the year after.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Mrs. Hart.
So I know the county, obviously Keystone,
Yes.
and so is that are you dovetailing well with the county? Because
Yes, we don't have access to each other's files like we had hoped. That was a technology thing that once we went live, we tried to work with them to make that happen. That has not happened yet. It makes our reporting easier when we balance back and forth with them.
Yeah,
But we're not being able to share data yet. We're hoping to get to that point.
well, I thought, my understanding was that the program had that capability.
We do, but we had technical difficulties, not on our side.
Yeah, I know,
So it's technical difficulties, not that the program can't do it.
It can do it, yes. We would
Okay.
just have to give them access to all of our account code structure and be able, for them to be able to run their own reports, and that's something we're gonna have to work out with them.
Because won't that make it easier for
Yes, ma'am.
you to keep up with what's transferred from the county to us?
Yes.
That's
We
what I,
balance back with them every month. They send a file to Susan.
Right.
She balances, we plug in
Right.
all of our expenditures, and they pull in what they have for us, and we make sure we balance every month.
but it'd be so much easier.
Yes,
if it-
ma'am. If they could
it'd
run their
save
own
you a
reports.
ton of time.
Yes, I agree.
Okay, that's my understanding from Keystone, from both people,
Yes.
county and us.
Yes, but it is a great system, and it is working beautifully for us. It's making a lot of things a lot easier, which was our hope.
That
so-
was my hope for you, too.
Yes, yes,
Okay, thank you.
yes, ma'am.
So money well spent because you're seeing that your program is working and doing what you need it to do,
Yes, ma'am.
and you have plans to keep it for a while.
Yes, I hope so.
They're good. Very good. All right.
I have one more question.
Yes, Dr. Taylor.
Can you explain why there's nothing in what was adopted for this current budget year for travel and memberships and miscellaneous, I guess? Where you've got 3,000 now, 750, just the 750 and the 3,000 now. Is that moved from somewhere else? Because it looks like we had something budgeted in '24, so did we not budget for it this year?
I'm sorry, which one? The dues and memberships?
Right above, adopted 25, the two dashes right above the 6,000.
The miscellaneous dues and memberships and the
Yes.
miscellaneous
I
other.
think that's just a matter of where we clean things up and trying to charge things to the right place.
So we didn't have anything in the budget for it last year, or it was in someone else's budget?
I don't know.
Because when I see it in '23 and '24, but nothing in '25, but we're asking again in '26, I just forces me to ask.
The reason I budgeted there because we spent it in '24, so we probably did not budget for it in '25. No, sir. Because I build my budget on the actuals for the year before, and when we were building that, when we started working on this process, I look at what we spent it in the past, and that's where those forms, I think they had been charged other places in the past.
Okay.
And in '23, I started charging them there, and then we didn't spend quite as much in '24. Adopted this year, I probably had to move money around in my budget.
Okay.
We may not have had that expense yet because we just did the W-2s and the 1099s and all of that. So that bill's probably coming. And I might have just put it under supplies, actually, in my own department budget. It's probably a lot of little things added together. But I can get back to you and let you know for sure. I may have actually revised my budget this year.
While she's looking, I'm going to put in a plug for our job fair. It's going to be March the 1st at Flat Rock Elementary School from 10 o'clock to 1 o'clock. Please share out on your social medias or with your groups that you have. The application for it is on our Talent Ed website, so they can go in and pre-register, and we will schedule interviews that day. But we also will do drop-ins. So anything you can share, anywhere you can share, I would appreciate it.
I've shared it around with everything I can think on all social media, and I've asked different organizations I'm part of to share it statewide, so
Perfect.
you never know, somebody's got to move to the area.
Yes, ma'am.
Taylor, we have spent $858 in that miscellaneous cost this year. I just had to move money from elsewhere in my budget to cover that.
With the upcoming job fair, I noticed that we are looking for, and of course I saw it when I was reviewing all of our budget here, for the substitute clinic nurse. I'd like for us to look at that in further discussion. We're only advertising that as $100 a day, and I can
We do
see that's
pay-
very difficult to
We do-
recruit.
If they're certified, I think it's, if they're certified, have their RN license, we do pay the $120 a day like we pay a certified sub. That's our rate for a licensed teacher, so we pay a licensed nurse the $120 a day.
Okay, because of course I shared this with amongst my RN friends, and they break it down by the hour, and it's less than $10 an hour. So as we review our budget to get qualified, nursing professionals, we need to look at that.
That is one of the groups that ESS does not provide substitutes for,
Right.
the nurses and bus drivers, so that does go through us.
Yes.
And just for clarity, the $120 a day for about the 6.5 hours that they are there is closer to 20, I think, dollars a day.
An hour.
So
7.25 hours.
Yeah.
Is what we're planning.
7.25.
7.25, so closer to maybe $16, $17 an hour. I just don't want people thinking it's $10 an hour.
120.
Okay.
It's $16.55 an hour. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
So if you don't have any more questions about either of our budgets, we can move on to superintendent and school board budgets, which is a little bit further back.
Four sections
Thank you, Terry.
passed for that.
Which way? Back. Or towards the back?
It's before, well, I say that, it's before special ed.
It's the very, which way?
There it is.
Superintendent. Okay.
All right, you will see, I'll walk you kind of through this. You'll see the consistency in the purchase services. I believe that first one is policies. She's pulling it up just to verify that my memory is correct.
Yes, the SBA policies.
And then the next one, which was legal services, is you saw our actuals from 2024 that were billed here. This year, we only had 40,000 adopted. Next year, the requested is 140,000. While we do hope these service costs are going down as over time, we know we need to be prepared, because otherwise we're looking for money in other areas to move it to cover the expense. Advertising notices, anytime we have a public hearing, we have to put things in the newspaper, and that is actually an expensive endeavor. I think we only have 2 things we have to do a year, and so that's to cover that cost. Local mileage is just mileage here within Powhatan. Sorry, I gotta get something as an edge to. And then when you see the travel conference, and that is actually for the clerk for going to her conference through VSBA. And then miscellaneous others is, wait, I'm missing one. Oh, other membership dues, we have board docs, and VSBA dues is the next dues. The miscellaneous other, that's for, different items that may be needed for the board meetings and to support the board. And that's, you'll also see materials and supplies there for that. And then the next section is really the superintendent's section, because the first was the school board. And for purchase services, I don't remember what. Trying to remember what the.
I got to log into the other system real quick, though.
Susan, do you know? Or I thought you were. Okay, that's okay. I thought you were
We're
trying
looking
to
up
share.
purchase
All right, well, we'll
services.
come back to the
I'll
purchase
run on the board real
services.
quick.
Travel and conference. I tend to go to 3 conferences a year through the Virginia Association of State Superintendents. 2 of them are in Richmond, so those are local, and the third one is in Roanoke each year. And then, of course, the VSBA conference in Williamsburg. You'll see the membership dues there. You know, again, miscellaneous things are, you know, various things that might come up that weren't particularly budgeted, as well as materials and supplies. There are a lot of, you know, when we think about things from both my budget and the school board budget, is thinking about when we're doing these budget meetings and we're purchasing the notebooks and all of the materials for doing that. Those are the types of things, in addition to supplies, that you use during normal board meetings. But happy to answer any questions.
Dr. Tigan, I believe that purchase services running, while it's running, it takes a little while in this old system. I believe a lot of that was where you had professional development division-wide, where people came in and spoke and did seminars or workshops and things like that for us. I'm pretty sure.
Yes, we kept that set aside for professional development.
Yes, where you have people come in and do, we had that.
We've had someone come in and speak to our assistant principals and principals around teacher evaluation, and we do other things.
Madam Chair.
Yeah, the diversity
Yes, Dr. Taylor.
training that we did.
VCIC.
Yes.
Dr. Tigan, when
Yes.
when you guys are doing your ramp up with your teachers, whatever, I forget what we call it, before the school starts, is that coming out of Empower Conference?
Empower
Yes.
Conference, it's funded, that is actually funded through instruction.
That's instruction, so not this, okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
I have a question.
Yes,
In
ma'am.
regards to the legal services of the 140,000, is that part of the 415,000 total for legal services?
Part of it is in this budget for things that are not special ed related, and the bulk of it is under special ed, which is a different department budget.
Okay, so this 140 is included in the total of the
Yes,
415
ma'am.
requests?
Yes, ma'am, yes.
Okay. And in regards to the membership dues for VSBA, I'd also like for us to look at and consider membership of SBMA, which is actually 4 school board members in alone. And I think that they align a little more with our constituents of our county. And it's more focusing on professional development and governance for the school board themselves. So I'd like for us to look at that and consider that as well, in addition.
Do you have
I don't
costs?
know, I don't have a cost, I'm looking on that, but I will find that out. I'm on the
And I
website
would
now.
say that that is a school board decision instead of a staff decision.
Right, just as we look at the budget, to keep in mind some money there.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Ms. Hurt.
Yeah, so School Board Member Association, SBMA, it's, each school board member would have a membership. And right now, some of us have paid our memberships on our own. VSBA, it's a group for the whole school board. It's one fee for the school board. It's not broken out by individual members, is my understanding of how it's paid. The advantage of SBMA, they offer a lot of free training that VSBA charges for, unfortunately. And I understand that the Williamsburg, which is not required that schools send people to that last year, the members from the school board that went had to pay their own hotel stay and membership and so forth. And that's really kind of expensive, I think, because not all school board members may be in a financial situation where they can pay for their hotel room and the fee to attend that. So, you know, I know that, and when, for however many years ago it was, when it was voted to increase the school board salary, it was stated that each school board member would be responsible for their own training, and unfortunately, I don't have the code, and I may have the code in front of me, but whatever. You are required by code as a school board member to have training every year, and I've got the code written down somewhere. And basically, I think that we need to have something in the budget for the school board to have training. And as Ms. Ward just mentioned, SBMA has a program, a day program, so they would come to you, and governance and policy is one thing they offer, and they have now hired a policy expert to be on their staff. And so, I mean, I think that we should, and I've mentioned this at a school board meeting, that we should schedule this, and also, we expect all our employees, our teachers, staff so far, to work on professional development, and we should do something maybe this summer, as I stated, we all read a book and have a discussion. That doesn't cost a lot of money, but it's a very useful activity. I know I read the book that staff read last year that I really enjoyed, and I didn't know I could have gotten a free one here. I bought my own, but anyway, I thought that was a really good choice of a book. In other schools and colleges that I've been associated with, I've had to read books before. So I want us to, because this is a school board decision, this is not a staff decision, that we need to make sure we have in the budget, that we have training and appropriate training to fulfill the code of Virginia, because that is a code. And I have verified that with legal counsel, and Michelle was there when we were verifying that fact, that we need to do that by law. And so anyway, I want to point that out. I know, as I said, that is a school board issue, and if we're not going to help people individually with professional development, then as a group, we should have money to regularly schedule at least once a year such professional development. So, anyway, thanks.
Just to add, I will tell you, it's 22.1-253.13, Chapter 5, is the quality of classroom instruction and educational leadership. It's required under our standards of quality. It goes not only for school board members, it goes for all staff.
But does it cover school board?
I think it does, yes. Part of the standards of quality every year is what it's, is have you participated in professional development or, continued growth, and that, yes.
But you're also asking us to go against our own policy that we just passed back before, because we voted that the monies that were paid were to do the job, not for doing the job, but to do the job, because such a big deal was made about we were stealing money from the taxpayers because that money was being used for classes and conferences and things. So that's why we made the change in compensation that we made to sort of settle that discussion. And now you want to bring it back up to do more. We already have something in place to do, and you're asking us to go against what our policy says that we will use for our guidance, for board training, school board training, and so forth. So I'm a bit confused that you bring it at this time when this should be, we need figures. Even if you make this proposal, we can't make any kind of changes or even thought about or discuss really until we see numbers.
Madam Chair, the numbers are for SBMA for a day training, it's $3,000 for a day for the whole school board.
Yes, I've seen that.
But my point is
But
that
what I
this
was referring
is
to
state
was the
code
membership.
on SOQ. A board cannot make a policy that violates the Virginia Department of Education. We have to follow that.
We're not violating. When we say there's training and training is coming from the money you're paid as compensation to be on this board.
No, you,
Actually, I think
At any rate, this is
we
not
we
the
can
time
have
to
this
do
conversation.
Let's move on to,
I have some
other
information
things.
that, I can share later. I've got some
later.
information
That's
coming.
not
and
where
we'll-
this needs to be taking
So
place.
I think we just I wanted to make a note, was for, to keep in consideration to have more training and governance and such, that was more aligned with the school board necessarily for our governance, so.
And it was not meant for a discussion, it was meant to have money in the budget because the budget is tight, so every dollar counts, so we needed to have it in an appropriate place to ask for X amount, not asking for individual training, but asking for the board as a whole to have a yearly training. So, but, you know, that's what code states, that's what the law is.
All right, let's move on. Are we ready? Ms. Holloway, are you finished? Are you?
I am finished. If you,
Any other questions for Ms. Holloway at this time?
I'm going to stay here for the next one as well. Okay.
Given that it's 10:15, I don't know, Madam Chair, if you want to take a break before we get into the next.
We have one more before lunch. I don't even have lunch this
All right, we'll take a break at this time. 5 minutes?
Scheduled for 10.
10 minutes. All right. You, for that nice little break. Let's get back to our agenda under Section G, Transportation Budget. Mr. Albert, welcome.
You ready? Oh,
Yes, sir.
Good morning. Members of the school board, thank you for allowing me to present my budget here today for transportation. Overall, the budget itself is down approximately $40,000 from the previous year, and it's broken down into a couple different categories. The transportation administration numbers, overall, we've kept it at 11.5 from the previous year of 2025. For the fiscal year of 2026, we're going to remain at 11.5. Going into the total vehicle operations of the
It's the last page, Ms. Hurt, the final page.
It's the last page of section 8,
Oh, sorry, George.
the very last one.
So under the vehicle operations section, we've broken it, we've moved some monies around into this bucket here, but overall, our purchase services, we increased it by $3,000. That bucket of money is for anything that we would send out of our garage that we can't handle, such as if it's body work, glass work, or if a vendor needs to come onto our property and do the services there. The number of monies for, I'll say, parents' transportation costs, where we've moved it up to $14,000 from the previous year of $8,000. That money there increased due to a few students that we transport for our private day schools that we don't have a driver for currently, and we are paying the parents to transport their kids to that private day school. We do have 2 drivers that have filled out to neglect, to decrease that number so it doesn't go any higher. We do have 2 drivers that we are planning on putting on momentarily. Their fingerprints, all their background checks are completed at this time, so we just have to go through a little bit of a training class with them and to get them up and running. That will at least address one of the students. I know it's 2 drivers, but the schedules of those 2 drivers will really only cover 1 student. We still are preparing to hire off the street to get more drivers to replace that. That is a big bucket and a cost to our county. The next number here is, overall vehicle insurance. That just is an increase. That's based off of the quote that we've received at $56,900. When you come down here to transportation, vehicle, and fuel expense, previous year was at $709,000. We've decreased that to $600,000, and that's based off of where we stand currently with our cost of fuel, and approximately $237,000 is what we spent year to date now. We figure that number will be right on plan for a fiscal year of 2025. County vehicle parts and supplies, we increased that to $299, up from $277. That's due to the cost of vehicle parts that we are spending, and we believe that number will definitely cover what we are spending in parts costs today. The other number here is the supplies and tools. So we went from 115 to 144, and that is,
That's county vehicle.
I apologize,
Yep.
sorry.
That's okay. County vehicle.
Counter vehicle parts at 144. So that where we get revenue back from that group there. That is one of our revenue buckets, but we've also, that was the combine of the 2 buckets, right?
Yes.
We combined from the previous year.
We spent 143 last year.
Right.
Right. So we based it on what we had spent last year and what we billed back to the county. They cover all of that in what we send them in our bills each month.
And then tools and our supplies there were at $30,000. We lowered that money based off of what we spent the previous year on 24 of only $20,000. Overall, our vehicle replacement costs, we increased that to 88,000, based off of our fleet, our van fleet right now. Our van fleet is extremely old. Miles-wise, it's extremely high, pushing close to 250, if not greater, on some of these vehicles. So we've replaced 3 vehicles so far, and we are in the process of trying to working with the CIP from the buses. So working with the county right now, so we had 8 in the plan for bus replacement, to see if we use 7 of them and take the other bus money that we had to be able to buy more vans, as opposed to buying an additional bus. I think that would be better spent than buying that bus.
And as you know, we do with the CIP comes through the county. So we have reached out to their finance office to ask, could we buy one less bus and have some more vehicle money? But because that's cash, we can't lease and like we do buses. So they've got to work out the logistics on their side. I just wanted to throw that in.
And then, based off of our total vehicle maintenance, which is just our physical uniforms, we stayed right there at $8,000 off of the plan, in the plan for 2026. Our overall last part of this would be our technology group. Right now, we're currently continue to spend that at 62.5. Now, in doing this whole total budget, we know that we need to add more technology to our group to help our overall drivers new with more of the ability for turn-by-turn directions. Taking that paper map that we use currently, taking it out of the hand of the driver, and being able to use something that could be talking to the driver as they drive their routes. That'll be definitely added safety to our group of drivers, as well as to our county. As in the past, I'll say few days, we've got some emails in regards to, a parent not thinking that it was very safe for one of my substitute drivers to drive with his child on board because they had a paper route in their hand. Now, instructions given to driver is we look at that route paper when we are stopped, not when we are driving. Yes, that they need to be able to know the next, I'll say 2 to 3 stops. They should be able to know that, and then being able to act on that. If I get to my next stop and I need to familiarize myself with another address, I look, refer to the paper, and put it down. But this technology will be able to help that driver navigate the course, especially in the early morning hours when it's dark outside, to be able to help safety. Kind of have a ballpark or a T-shirt size of 10 devices would be about $42,000. Seems like a lot of money. The overall devices are fairly inexpensive, but it is the background part of that technology. That technology at 42 grand would support up to 110 devices. So it's not the actual device, but it's the technology behind it. So you would be laying out some bigger dollars, but overall, it would cost approximately about $8,000 to manage that in a year after that. So the SaaS fee after that, software as a service after that would be approximately $8,000. That is not, as I just described, that is not in here, but I think it's something that we talked as a group, and we think that we can find that monies once the moneymaker here, she'll be able to figure out where we can get those dollars.
I think the bulk of it would come in this year's expenditures, and we probably have some savings in fuel because of fuel prices right now. So we are pursuing, looking into that. So the actual cost in the next year's budget would be about $8,000.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
if we're ready for questions, I got a couple. Mr. Albert, are we seeing fuel cost savings based upon our EV use? I know you've got $34,000 for EV charging. I'm assuming that's an electric bill. Are we seeing, can we track that we are seeing a reduction in our fuel costs diesel fuel costs because of our EV use?
To be answered the question, I do not know specifics to that. I can go back and get the documents and stuff of that to look at it. I don't have that detail at this time.
The only way we would be able to do that is to compare those particular buses that were replaced by the EV buses and what we spent on fuel for those individual buses and what we've spent on the EV bus that replaced it. So that would take a little bit of coordination between George and me to figure that out, how we would do that. Going back, I don't know if their software would allow for us to look at an old bus and what we spent in fuel. I would think it would, but I don't know for sure. So we'd have to compare those individual buses. And then if the fuel rates have changed, that could alter it slightly. I wouldn't think it would be that much, but we can try to do that analysis for you, Dr. Taylor, and see. And that's why I put a line in here for EV charging, because I knew at some point somebody would say, how much does it cost to charge the buses?
Yeah.
And I didn't want it just going into the electricity bill with the buildings. I wanted to have it in.
Well, I think that's wise to do that so that we can know
Yes.
what we're dealing with here. We didn't go with these buses because we were going to save. I personally am I've always been hesitant on it, the whole EV situation. We did that, as you know, because we had a grant and it was advantageous for us to get 10 buses that are EV versus what we could buy in the allotted money we had for diesels at the time. I'm just curious to see, just the same, when it comes to our buildings that have solar panels, are we really recouping money for the expense that we put in when it comes to solar? I'm a little bit of a naysayer when it comes to that technology. I don't yet see the advantage of it.
What we can do.
When it comes to vehicle replacement with the vans, how many are we talking about in that 88,000?
That's enough for two, I
Two
believe.
two vans? And you said something about leasing buses? I didn't think we leased buses
Yeah,
anymore.
we do.
The county does. When they build their CIP, they tell us what they're going to do, and they have last year, was the first year since I've been here, they did a lease purchase. They have a lease purchase for this year, and it's a certain dollar amount, but Mr. Albert doesn't think we need that many buses. We need more replacement vehicles, so I can't use lease purchase money for cars and vans. So
Yeah.
they'd have to, on their side, switch it
Change
from
it.
a lease to a cash thing.
Yes, okay.
So we're working through that right now with them.
And then when it comes to the technology, you're saying it's not for I don't know, is it a tablet or?
It would be a tablet. It would be Traversa, which we have the system today. It would be able to pull that route that we already have designed, to pull it to the tablet, and then the tablet itself would then be able to be used by that driver.
And that's part of this 62.5?
No,
not.
that
It
is,
would need to be
that,
70,500 in that line item, but we just found out about that after we had done all the books.
Okay.
So we need an additional 8.
I mean, that would be a great tool. I mean, I was a sub driver in Kentucky 20 years ago, and I would have killed for something like that. I was relying upon a kindergartner at 6:30 in the morning when it's dark, driving down a farm road to try to figure out where the next stop was.
we still use that technology.
Yeah. So, and kids will help you. They're good, especially the ones that are on there first. If they're not sleeping, they can help. But to have somebody reliant that could tell me that, I think that'd be a great tool for our drivers.
We're always looking for good drivers.
I do this. Yeah, I do this. Sorry. I think that answers my questions.
Madam Chair?
Mrs. Hurt?
So the county didn't give us any say-so in the lease purchase of buses. This is what they chose to do.
Yes, ma'am.
And my understanding with the lease purchase, the typical lifespan of a bus, when it's up, then we get to sell that bus, even though it was on a lease purchase deal.
Yes.
So have they said to you what the advantage was in lease purchase versus purchase?
The only thing I can think of is that they can pay over time rather than having all the cash up front would be my guess.
My understanding is it's ultimately more expensive than if you just bought the bus. That's something I think we should talk to the Board of Supervisors about. We should put on the list because, it's kind of like, charging stuff on a credit card. It seems cheaper right now, but then in the long run, it costs you a lot of money. And, I just have a concern about lease purchase kind of deals. It kind of makes me think of those rental centers you see advertised on TV. I don't know. On this technology, which I think is great, is there any way that the software like, everybody has a cell phone that they could, that we wouldn't even have to buy the equipment, that, because I know we use different apps on our phone, and you don't touch your phone and it talks to you. It's like, in 200 feet, turn right, kind of thing. Is there any way the software, so we wouldn't have to buy tablets to give to the drivers?
Well, at this time, that is the solution the one solution that I looked at. There's many of them out there, but I wanted it to piggyback off of something that we've already had that we
Okay.
didn't need to develop or even use another style
Okay.
or another company, so.
And I think it would be better not to ask the bus drivers to use
Use
their
their own
personal
cell
phones,
phones.
especially because these are for substitutes right now.
Okay.
It would change all the time with different drivers.
Yeah, that's a good point. Was there some kind of holder for these iPads that go on the dashboard?
Correct, we would come up with some type of amount.
I'm just thinking of the cup phone for the, so
It
that's
would be something of that style. It's
Yeah,
more than likely a RAM mount, something.
Right, so that they're not
would become
touching it or anything, and it's talking to them as they drive, especially on dark country roads, like you said, early in the morning, or bad weather or something. I mean, I think that's, excellent. Okay, do you feel comfortable, and I'm not criticizing the county, but do you feel comfortable, I know you're relatively new, are we getting adequately compensated for what we're doing for county vehicles? Because that's always kind of concerned me, hey, the parts we buy, the labor, do you, I mean, I know you're new, but do you feel like that it's,
I believe
I do,
yeah.
yes. And I check that every month. What we bill them is what they pay them. I have a spreadsheet set up. So what we bill them for fuel comes back and is a credit against our fuel account. It's not really a revenue source.
Right,
It's
right.
an
It just makes our
expenditure
bill
refund.
lower.
Yes, ma'am.
Right.
But the parts and the labor that we bill them for easily covers the 144 because we budget more than that because of the labor. So I feel very comfortable that it is a good deal.
no, but I mean, I know the billing part, but I'm talking about actually in the garage. Do we know that we're, that it's put in the system that this was a county sheriff's vehicle or fire vehicle that,
Yes.
okay.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
mean, I live in the county, but I gotta watch the school's money, and
Right.
I don't wanna pay for their stuff.
Right.
I understand.
We're not paying for their
Okay.
stuff.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Right.
I have a question as well about the EV charging. You're keeping it the same. Do you not see any increases in electrical?
Well, I don't know, since this is the first year we've done it, I don't have a whole year's worth of history, so that could be a little high, it could be a little low. I'm guessing with what we put in there for this year, we are not over that by any stretch of the imagination right now. But I
Okay.
don't have a full year's data.
But you think that's,
916 that we spent last year was right at the end of the year when we were starting to use the buses and practice driving them and learning them. So that was all the history I had. So we came up with the 34 based on the first few bills that we paid, and hopefully that's enough. It may be, like I said, a little too high. I can look and see what we've spent so far this year.
it's better to have a little bit of a cushion because that price for electricity could be fluctuating here. So, okay. And, I think that's all I have. I did have that same question about the leasing of the buses, and you were trying to get 2 more vans,
For the price of one bus, we would probably be able to get
3 vans.
three vans for the price of one bus.
That's even better then, isn't it? Okay.
Ms. Smith, we've spent so far this year, we have spent, for 6 payments that we've made, $16,627. So if we double that, we should be right at the $34,000.
Okay.
So that's kind of what we based that on, was a projection for the rest of the year based on what we had already paid. So right now, we're at $16,627 for the electricity for the buses.
Okay. Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Yes, sorry.
On those buses, on those charging stations, Dominion's supposed to be able, when they're plugged in high need, like summertime, pull current off the batteries and give us a credit back.
We don't know anything to that effect right now, but
Right.
that is definitely how it's supposed to work.
Yeah, that's how it's supposed to work.
Yes,
Maybe we'll get our credit at the end of the year.
I would think.
Well, I would think they would do it, because it's metered, it'd have to be on a monthly basis.
You would think, but I don't know that they think, Because we haven't gotten anything yet like that, have we?
I'll have to look at an individual bill and
It
see
might
if I
be
see
on
any
the-
kind of adjustment on there.
It might be
and
on
let
the
you know.
individual bill, but they
Okay.
probably haven't pulled,
I was gonna say, and it's only during certain
summer.
summer
Yeah,
outside of our
yeah,
summer school
yeah.
schedule.
that's why you have to leave the
Yes.
buses plugged in and you
Just
can't
take a
let
look
people
at
take
that,
them
Ms.
home.
Holloway, and see if you can get us that. So, look, just out of curiosity, what that, payback would be from the electric company, or,
Madam Chair, I have a question.
yes, Mrs. Saint.
So, if you could just reiterate, because I have the $88,000 for the vehicle replacement, but I had made a note that was for the purchase of one bus.
No, ma'am.
Okay, okay. Because I've got 88,000 can purchase 2 vans, but then I heard the price of a bus could be 3 vans, so I'm
That's in
confused.
the CIP.
Okay,
The
got-
buses are in the CIP, and in order to change what's in the CIP from a lease purchase to cash, we have to go through the county. And instead of buying 8 buses like we budgeted in the CIP, we want to buy 7 and save that 100 and whatever thousand, 150,000 to buy more vehicles for our vehicle fleet, not buses.
Okay,
But it's 2 different pots of money. This is for replacement vehicles. We build this in every year so they can replace at least 2, like driver's ed vehicles or a van or whatever the need for the division is with the oldest, like, we call it the white fleet, I guess, the cars and the vans. That's-
okay.
Yes.
All right, so, because I did make a note, under CIP, so that's why I was a little confused, because it bounced back. I also had questions in regards to the EV charging, if we could get a price down, to make that,
I'm looking
to
at
see
one
if
of
we're
the,
saving money.
yeah, I'm looking at one of the invoices now, and there is a small little credit on the end, very small, Rider VCR voluntary credit refund, and then Rider GTP grid transformation plan credit. And it's about $25 each bill.
Ooh, yay.
Yeah.
And also, I'm not sure if this is where we build it up, but again, bring it up because, fairly new. I'm in my second year. But I know last year that we reported back that we sent some of our older vehicles off for auction, which I think is great, that we can recoup some of that money. But maybe what I'd like to see, if maybe we can do a first offering for the county first. Maybe there's family members here in the county that need a vehicle and that they might have first option instead of sending them off to an auction. I don't know if that's something we can do or get an average. I think if I'm remembering correctly, we got like $500 to $800
Yes.
per vehicle.
Yeah, it's not
And, so here in the community, that may be very affordable for someone, even if it bought them a vehicle for a year.
I think that the big thing is conflict of interest and, who ends up getting it. So when it's put on the gov.net or whatever
Gov deals.
right, it is that people here in the county can actually bid on them.
Yes.
So maybe it's just about saying that we're going to be making sure
notification.
that people know we're putting vehicles on. They don't get a lot of money because they're very high mileage and very well worn.
Right, very, very well used.
But, yes.
There may be a family
But they
that could
can go
use-
on and purchase them through that for those same, and get in on the fact if
Yeah,
it's a good deal for them.
yeah, could be a good deal for them. So just trying to look out for
Just in general, good.
our community
gov-
citizens here. Pass the savings on to them.
Madam Chair, I have 2 follow-up questions.
Yes, that's.
Mr. Albert and Mrs. Holloway, if we've spent $16,000 in EV charging expenses so far, we got 10 buses, is that 10, if that's 16,000, is that roughly what we would spend for fuel for 10 diesel buses? Is that an easy way to look at that and compare the costs?
Not from this computer. I would have to do some
Okay.
research and pull an individual fuel invoice.
Yeah, again, I'm not really trying to be negative, I'm just, I don't think we have any intentions of buying EVs going forward, other than, I guess maybe in 15 years,
don't.
we've got charging
We definitely
stations.
don't.
Georgia, I don't
No,
yeah.
sir, I can say we're,
yes. I don't
everyone
think-
who's here now says that's the only
Well,
electric
well,
vehicles we
hold-
will be having.
Hold on, I've got another question with that. have our EV, we're 1 year, 1 calendar year into having full force. We had a staggered implementation of our buses. I think we're about a year into it, right? We had the 10th one come in January of last year, maybe February. Have we seen any additional maintenance costs as opposed to what we would see in a diesel bus? New diesel bus versus new EV bus?
Again,
You have no
I
idea.
don't have that data, but I can see they're all under warranty, so a lot of the work that is being done and performed on an EV bus is Sonny Merriman taking the bus if it does need and require maintenance to their shop if they can't fix it on property, and a lot of it is at this time warranty work. I'd have to see, take 10 buses, 10 diesels, 10 of those to see if they would marry
Yeah.
up, but.
The reason I'm poking at this, I'm the one board member that has children in the school system currently, and all three of my daughters ride 2 EV buses. And so I'm very aware when they're not in cycle and working, and my high school student's bus just didn't start, or whatever you call it, at the high school to pick up one day last week. And so,
Correct.
and
Yes.
then, yeah, it is still out of cycle. It
It's
did
still-
pick up
it is
this
still
morning.
sitting.
So
It's still
EV20.
sitting, yeah, yes.
Okay. Didn't plug it in or something.
No. It was another item that's on there that is being replaced on all 10 buses. It is some defect in the part.
So like a recall?
It's I would say
Recall.
that it's a recall, yes.
Yeah.
Go figure.
It works until, it's great when it works, it's not great when it doesn't work. But I guess that's true of any bus vehicle.
Or
We're just-
any new piece of equipment.
I'd like to chime in on the EV vehicle as well. And I guess the reason we're really asking is so we can truly compare apples to oranges, because if charging the bus is costing us more, we'll could just rely on the diesel buses and just put them at rest, So those would be some things that, that's why we're really trying to figure out what the actual cost is.
George and I will work with Josh over in transportation to see what kind of information we can get out of their system per bus and see which buses were replaced by the EV buses and see if there's any way for us to do a comparison. We will work on that for you.
Well, I think we got to use the buses. We've got them in circulation. We've spent money, but it's just information that helps us to think down the road. Is it worth doing this again? And I think right now the data says, and our experience says no. But we have them. We will use them for the next 15 years, I would assume, as they're under warranty and roll on.
All right,
Thank you for your time and your questions.
thank you. Exactly. Are they?
For just, I mean, some of it's, I'm sure it's just maintenance stuff.
But we can't use them.
Mr. Benway, I think we're going to try to get through the first half of your presentation and see where we are, whether we can get through the whole thing before lunch or whether we need to break in between.
Excellent. So this is the facilities O&M. It is the one just before the school board, if that helps.
O&M?
Yes. It's the O&M,
The one just before the school board.
yeah. They're just making sure, because there's multiple facilities that they're on the O&M. Yes.
Very all set. First, I'd like to give a shout out to Debbie and her team. They do an amazing job with this budget, and they help me immensely. And I really am glad they purchased this new KeyNet financial management software. It provides excellent insight in terms of where we are with spending, and I can very accurately predict in terms of whether we're on track for the budget or over budget. And because of that, you'll see some updates to what you're actually seeing in this hard copy, because this budget was submitted back in the November timeframe. So I have some updates in terms of where we are with spending. Some good, some not so good.
Oh,
But first thing I'd like to do is introduce my right-hand man to my left here is Tom Stolzer. He's the new Assistant Director of Facilities. He is doing an amazing job. Once again, he's primarily concerning on the day-to-day stuff, and I'm kind of focusing on the big picture and the future. And so I think we're making a pretty darn good team. And so if day-to-day stuff comes up, he'll be the man to field that question if I don't have the answer. I'd like to start out with the one initiative that we have. We have two apprentices, two maintenance apprentices that are in the Facilities Directorate, Danny and Michelle. The purpose of these two apprentices is twofold. One, of course, is to help out with the day-to-day jobs, learning. We have primarily one on the east side, one on the west side, but they'll both migrate. But they are excellent helpers for the folks that are doing the work. We have some maintenance technicians that have been on the job here in the schools for over 20 years, and in some cases they're 3 to 5 years out from retirement. So that's the second fold is we're training these folks to hopefully take the place. So they're becoming familiar with the schools during this process. And so when it is time for those couple maintenance technicians to retire, I'd really like to see folks like this that have knowledge in our school system that will be able to step in and take their place, as opposed to trying to train somebody off the street for this difficult job that they're doing.
Can you hold on one second, just so that you're not seeing this on this particular page, because this is staff, it's salary, so it's on staffing.
He's asking for them to change from 10-month to 12-month positions is all. And we pay them a little bit in the summer anyway for the extra work that they do. So it's about $9,300 in the salaries, and that's why you don't see it in his actual spreadsheet.
Thank you.
And the reason why we're doing this is because right now there are 210-day contracts, and we want to move them to a 245-day contract. So currently, they're not working, and they're not contracted to work during the summer. However, that's some of our busiest time is during the summer, and that's when we really need them. And fortunately, they're willing to work on the summer, and that's about toward the end of the year when Debbie has some money that she may be able to have unspent, so we use some of that money to have them work during the summer. So in fact, they're working almost as much hours as our regular 245-day employees, but they're not necessarily getting the benefits that they deserve. So I think one plus of this salary increase, or this $13,000, would allow these two folks to get the full-time benefits that in my mind, they definitely deserve.
Actually, only this, because I took out what we pay them in the summer.
Okay.
So it's not 13, it's 9,300.
Another update to the better. Any questions on this initiative? Okay, moving on to the line items. The first line item is the staff training. You see, this is something that we just took on this year. This is allows our staff to be trained in safety, job safety awareness. Basically, we piggybacked on to the existing Vector contract, the video training series that the school teachers use, and we thought for a $1,500 investment, just to give reminders, even though a lot of these folks are very experienced, just reminders that this is how we conduct work safely. So that's the purpose of that $1,500, and we'd like to continue that next year. Next up is the uniforms. A couple years back, we went away from renting and having them clean our uniforms to purchasing the uniforms. I think this has worked out really, really well. Each of the members is given basically a $300 credit to go out and spend. Most of it goes toward the shirts that you'll see me wearing, having to do with facilities, kind of identifies them to the new teachers, who they are, and also gives them clothes that they can be pretty much disposable, because as you can imagine, they do some pretty dirty work for the time frame. But not only the shirts and the jackets that they'll need during the winter months for clearing snow and ice, but also they can choose to purchase steel-toed shoes or pants with the reminder that all this stuff must be worn only during the school time. So that's there's no increase in that. The next one is the maintenance and repair services. This is basically the contract services that we put in place. Basically, these are one-off contracts as opposed to the 3320, which is next, which is a yearly contract. These are for jobs that are so big that my team cannot tackle it. or if they're currently overwhelmed with trying to maintain some of the work, some of the repairs work. Occasionally, we'll bring in a contractor to do that work. So it's literally everything from leaking roofs, which there seems to be quite a bit of lately, to the bell system repair, fire alarm system repair, some plumbing work, major plumbing work that our folks may not be comfortable handling. Basically, anything that we need to bring in. And currently, we are about 17% over budget where we should be. And so you can see I'm asking for an increase in 10% over the FY25 budget. Any questions on that?
Yes, sir. What's caused us, I know we got some leaky roofs from the weather, winter weather and stuff. Is that what's put us over budget currently?
Multiple, and that we spent almost $13,000 in roof repairs. It does seem like we're having much more than we have had in the past. I think some of that is due to the freezing and thawing that took place. We did have a number of roofs that were leaking across the schools after this past winter storm. But I think just in general, the roofs are getting older in these buildings, and they're starting to show their age.
Well, we got CIP stuff coming that'll help fix a lot of that, right?
Yes, sir. We definitely need a new roof on the high school.
Yeah. Okay.
Does this number also cover the cost for the bathrooms? Or does that come later?
Right now, we're fixing all those in-house.
Okay.
But you'll have to, if a commode's broken, you have to buy a new commode. That would be an expense,
Or
right?
parts.
But that would be a material expense as opposed to hiring a contractor to fix it.
I see what you're saying.
So right now, our,
Different line item.
yes, sir, different line item. But if you would like some additional information on the toilets, I know you brought that up at the start of the meeting. Basically, to date, we have 31 toilets that have been backed up due to vapes at the high school. We've had to replace 12 of those over the past couple years. My team has gotten better in terms of getting the vape free from the toilet, but nonetheless, we still need to remove the toilet from the stall, take it out back, and push the vape back out the backside to release the vape. And sometimes it's so jammed in there, they can't push it back from the outside, and in the process of doing so, it actually breaks the porcelain of the toilet. And so those are the 12 that we could not save. If you're looking for a dollar cost in terms of what we spent, Troy over at the high school has gotten very good and very fast about doing this. He's able to do this in about 45 minutes now per toilet. So I use that as a basis for the cost in terms of material and labor. We estimated we've spent about $4,500 doing these repairs, time and labor, this past year.
And that would come out of that repair and maintenance supplies?
Yes, sir, as well as his time as well.
But if we were to replace a toilet, that's the line item that would come,
Yes,
which
yes.
we're currently 5% over budget.
Yes, sir.
Okay. July.
Yeah, that's basically from, yeah, it's happened since August until where we are now.
So you replaced 12 of them or fixed 12 of them, but you said 31 were damaged.
They had to be removed to actually get the vape out themselves. It was
But you
jammed.
fixed it and put it back?
Yes.
Okay.
So I wanted to re-clarify that. So the 400, so basically $4,500 over, you said, so it's about $450 to $500 cost per toilet that's being,
Well, keep in mind, we did save some of them. So you can't just do a straight division there, because that part of that 45 minutes is pulling that vape out so that it doesn't show as material cost. So it would just be the time.
the time.
Yeah.
And those come out of the 6007 account? Those come out of the 6007 account?
Repair and maintenance
Repair and
supplies.
maintenance. So that one's approximately 10% over budget.
Very unfortunate.
Any other questions on 3310? Next is 3320. These are the maintenance contracts. As I mentioned, these are over the course of the year. So these are our big contracts that, like HES, obviously it's the major portion of this contract, approximately 1.5 million right now. But it's also the one-time cost we have for HES. In other words, if any work is done outside of their traditional hours to support dances, events on Saturdays or Sundays, tournaments, those type of things, that's an additional cost that they'll add to this as well. It's the trash cans entering the dumpsters, the elevators servicing and repairs and inspections, the recycling fee, Johnson Controls for our fire alarm, burglar alarm system, Vector, same thing at the high school for the concession stand and field house, the pet service, as well as some of the building automation yearly contract that we're with. So those are the major players on this. The difficult part about predicting this budget is we know we need to predict it right now. It's not going to go in effect until another 6 months from now. And so the yearly cost could have actually increased during that time frame, so we didn't have insight into it. So it's not always easy to predict. However, I do lean on HES to give me their proposal for the next year, because that is the major driver. And so when I approached them about FY26, they are proposing a 2.5% increase in that. So it would basically increase by about approximately $38,000 over the course of the year. And that 2.5% increase is justified due to a 6% increase in the material costs that they have, the toilet paper, the cleaning supplies, the fact that they've had a wage increase of 3% over the past year, trying to stay competitive in the local job market, as well as they would like to incentivize some of their proven, hardworking, long-duration employees with a 3-day paid holiday so that they can choose at their leisure. So kind of an incentive, because that's during the feedback, that's one of the things that they really regret not having in this job, is the ability to take a paid day off when they need one. And so currently we are about 2.5% over budget. I don't see that changing, because once again, these are yearly contracts over what we were in 25. If you roll in approximately a 3% consumer price index increase that was predicted for this year, that would mean a 6% increase over FY24 actuals, and that justifies that figure. Any questions on 3320? Once again, we're estimating a 3% increase just to take into account inflation for electrical services, heating, fuel, water services, telecommunications. I'm sorry, that was added. Insurance premiums and O&M rental. Any questions about any of those? Then we get to the repair and maintenance supplies. This is the supplies, as Mr. Sulzer pointed out, is that the toilets would come from. Currently we are about 17.9% over budget, so we've made a little progress toward the good there. But so this is, once again, these are supplies that my team uses to go out and fix problems. Once again, we try and keep the money in Powhatan. So if you go back and look at the invoices, you'll see a lot of RC Goodwins, a lot of Pleasance Hardware, a lot of Tractor Supply, and all the other folks that supply things that we can purchase here in Powhatan. But I think some of it is due to some of the other big hitters we had in trying to save money on mulch. We've added some mulch dividers to Flat Rock Elementary. That came in at about $3,500. I think that will pay for itself in a little while in terms of mulch, batteries for fire alarm systems, kitchen repairs, trying to get the ovens through to the latest kitchen replacements that we did. Traffic signs for the drop-off at the middle school, transportation garage door opener cords. They had frayed to the point of being gone. That was almost $3,800 for those. Replacement seats and desktops for the high school classroom furniture. You know, we had hoped in the SIP to try and get those replaced sooner. It's not looking good, yet they are continuing, the seats are continuing to crack, and the tables are continuing to break due to old age, but we are able to get replacement parts for these. The vendor keeps on saying this is the last you're going to be able to order because we're going to stop making them because these went out of style 15 years ago when they were purchased 20 years ago. So there's not much guarantee in terms of how much longer we'll be able to keep on getting these replacement parts. But that came into about $6,600 of this. Once again, just trying to milk that furniture along a little bit longer until we can get some SIP money to buy a whole new set of furniture for the high school. Any questions on the repair and maintenance supplies?
Madam Chair?
Yes, Mr.
And I don't know exactly where this would be. I know we mentioned out front of the PLC Center, like trying to do something, because since the tree's gone, it's kind of shabby looking. Did we put anything in a budget anywhere to try to do something with that?
That would be landscaping, and I'm sure you're probably aware we're working with the NAACP in terms of that particular spot as to what makes sense. We were able to save a number of the tree parts of the tree that unfortunately
For benches or something?
Yes, ma'am, for benches and a plaque, and planting a new tree there. So we feel that might kind of dress that up. But any new shrubbery out front, that would come out of the landscaping budget.
So the NAACP, are they working on coming up with a plan and raising funds?
We had asked them what particularly they wanted to do with the wood, and they were very excited about the idea of the benches. However, they wanted to think about it as a group, and they were going to get back to us sometime this month as to what they'd hope to do with that. So once we get their inputs, that's when we'll move forward.
Okay, so we would probably have some expenses, as you said, which is fine for fixing up in front of the building, because it does look, but we had to cut the tree down. It was unsafe.
It was.
It could have fallen and killed somebody.
We had an arborist come in and tell us
Right.
that it was very unsafe. Additional limbs could fall anytime, and the tree probably had the best 2 years left before it was completely.
Yeah, well, if it fell on somebody, that would be horrible. So that was the right move. Okay, well, good. I'm glad to hear that the community wants to help fix it up.
Madam Chair, I have a couple comments. Mr. Bin.
Yes, ma'am.
Anyway, so I think it's a great idea that we were able to save some of the wood and that they've got that. Maybe we could have our shop department, help build, some benches and things like that. That would involve our youth, which would be amazing if the NAACP wanted to, engage in that as well. This is going to also go back to maintenance. So have we looked at the cost of mulch every year versus all of the years that we remulch versus stone? I see a lot of the places, churches and, restaurants and things, they're using a lot of the large stone. And I know on the front end, sometimes that's usually a little bit heavier, compared to mulching. But over 2 to 3 years, it pays itself back. And we wouldn't have to do it for 10 years or 15 years. So maybe we could look at something that.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I'd have to get smart on the stone versus the mulch. I know for the mulch, we need at least 8 inches of fresh mulch. And that does drive up a lot of costs for mulch. Well,
Right.
I'll get into that when I get into landscaping, but there's no doubt that's.
Right. And then that's controllable. Once you put the stone down, it's there for 20 years or 30 or maybe forever. Whereas labor with mulching, of course, your cost is always, fluctuate. So, yeah, maybe if you wouldn't mind taking a look into that, bringing it back to us, it'd be great. It's not that bad.
No.
You can spray.
The stone, you just spray.
You just spray.
I did that at my house. Did the stone with the metal banding.
Yeah.
Because I used to have to pay thousands of dollars to mulch every year. And it's for the River Rock, the initial investment. But I mean, it's been there now for 7 years and looks the same. And I know Roundup is carcinogenic, but we just squirt a little Roundup and.
Yeah, we're very careful about the times we spray obviously with the kids. Yeah. But yeah, I'd have to get smart on the safety aspect of that. I'm sure it is safe if they're showing up at churches and restaurants and that sort of thing.
Madam Chair, I'd just like to also say about the front, in addition to speaking with the NAACP, we've also are trying to work. I've had conversations with the extension agents and working with some of our master gardeners in the area to work with our students, that are in the landscaping, taking that as their coursework to develop a plan and for the front. So that is something that is a work in progress.
Thank you.
Moving on to the landscaping, these trees out here to the left of as you go out the front door, they drop these fruits, berries, or something. They're very dangerous when people have stepped on them, crushed them, or even before someone has stepped and crushed them. If someone slips and falls, I wouldn't mind seeing them cut down or pulled out.
I think in the near term, we'll make sure we do a better job sweeping and blowing those off as well when the season comes. But
I just think they're dangerous because I've stepped on them several times, and I'm just like, when there's nowhere else to walk on the sidewalk.
I hear you. One thing I've learned quite a bit in the past couple of years is that this building and a lot of the grounds are very well thought of in the community, and a lot of people hold a lot of heartfelt thoughts in terms of the trees, the memorials, the plantings, and I've learned just to be very, very careful in terms of what we change.
I know there's one out there that is, but are all of them out there as memorials?
I'd have to do research. I know there's several out there, though.
Like I said, maybe that $100 leaf blower could do, a world of wonders. So,
I do not know what it is. I'm not sure why anybody picked it to put out there. They had to not have known what it was going to produce. I don't think it's an edible fruit.
Yeah, we'll have to get smart on it. We'll look.
I don't even know what you would call it. I'll find out what it is. Yes, get on that, Mr.
I'm far from a master gardener.
Miss Wade's a master gardener. She should be able to help us. But yeah, we need to do something because of the unsafeness of that. Go ahead.
Okay, the last one under the O&M is the HVAC supplies. You're seeing in your write-up, it's 5% over budget, but you can just show you how things have changed. Call it seasonal, if you will. That we're into the warming months as opposed to the cooling months. But currently, we're about 15% under budget for the HVAC supplies if you look at a linear spending trend across the year. But some of the challenges that we faced this year that we haven't faced last year was a lot more issues with refrigeration at the schools, both for the standard size refrigerators in the teacher lounges or the kitchen refrigerators in the schools. Once again, those are showing their age, and we've done quite a bit of work on those lately as well, to include the floral cooler at the high school that we're currently working on. But I think that the 5%, based on the way it was trending in the cooling season, is probably a good idea for the next year as well.
And Mr. Benway, do we test the air quality in our buildings?
We do if there is a concern. Keep in mind that that was a big thing during COVID. So we had ionization devices put on all our ducts for the AC system, as well as the filters are changed 3 times a year. So it's something that we definitely look at, but obviously if there is a concern and we can justify that concern, then we'll bring in some environmental folks to do a testing. But usually that's mostly around concern about mold in an area. So if we can link it to the moisture in the air, the HVAC system, we will go and test. And I guess the last time we did that was at Powhatan.
Okay, so you think it's more in, I just know that there's some bills being considered down at the assembly that relate or suggest the air quality in buildings and whatnot. So I'm just wondering what at this point that we are still doing in regard to keeping it and cost that we would incur to go in and try to test the air quality in a building?
I owe that answer to Dr. Tigan. When that came out, I volunteered to come up with that, and I still need to figure that out, what that would look like in terms of a cost if we had to do that.
If we had to, yeah. Just in your spare time, yeah, right. Thank you.
The bill would not be funded?
That's almost, are you making jokes now? All right.
Okay, moving on to landscaping. If you recall, we have two local landscapers that split out in terms of east and west. Their contract increases by the Consumer Price Index. So both of those increased about 2.6% last year, because that's determined at the rollover time of the first of the year. But we'll be hopefully moving those to a FY contract. Our big increase recently is our previous turf contractor, who was Where There's Green, basically retired and closed up shop, and we put an RFP out on the street, and the winner of that was Lasting Impressions, now is known as Golf and Grounds. However, the price of that contract per year went up just a little bit over $20,000 a year for that work. And so you're seeing that increase in the landscaping, but also keep in mind that the basic landscaping that we have, the two landscapers do, that does not include any trimming of the bushes, trimming of the trees, grading the tracks, adding gravel to it. Does not include the seeds, fertilization, and application of the turf. A year ago, we paid almost $8,000 for ryegrass for some of those turf fields, so they look nice and green in the springtime, as they should. So all these costs have just been increasing more so in landscaping than I've seen in the other contractors. And so that's why you see that the increase of a 6% over the FY24 actuals. So it's a big jump, but the majority of that is the increase in the turf landscaping.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Mr. Benway, the cutting of shrubs and all that, that's handled by y'all's staff? Or you're hiring it out?
On a case-by-case basis, it is, if something happens off-season, but the big trimming takes place over summer, and I usually bring in one of our contractors, either east or west, to do that.
So you're subbing out the big stuff?
Yes.
The grading of the tracks and all that, you're doing as well?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did we hire you? The RFP, was that the lowest bid? That's 20,000. It's like everybody was just more.
Yes.
So you chose the lowest bid. It's still crazy expensive.
Well, keep in mind, this isn't just Bob Benway looking at it. I brought in the
Oh yeah, I understand that. I understand the
activities
process.
directors and making sure that they were okay, because they are
Yeah.
probably know more about turf fields than I do. Making sure that they were okay with the service that they proposed and the type of fertilizers they were going to use and the performance that they're going to get out of the turf grounds, because they're looking at it after the coaches.
Yeah, everything's getting expensive all the time.
Yes, sir. And then those were the majority of the changes. However, if you go down to the technology, if you recall, we stepped away from School Dude, and we now have FMX as providing our maintenance logging system, as well as our front end for the school automation system. What you're showing there is a 3% increase. However, I received an update from FMX. This is now going to be a 5% increase. That number is going to increase to $19,612. That's one change that I need to share with Debbie.
612.
612, 19,612. Which is increased about $362. So if I increase that 362.95 to the total, it now becomes $4,034,525.95. questions for me or Tom?
I'd just like to make a comment. Tom, I know Mr. Benway is very excited to have you part of his team this year. And we're glad we were able to have that done for you.
Mr. Bentley, back up the top under office supplies. You got staff training and then office supplies. In 2024, we had 549. Then for 25, it was 1,500. Going into 26, you've got 1,545.
Actually, yeah, the writing is so small that the 1,500 is actually for the staff training, and the office supplies is the 549. We have not had office supplies, we don't have any budget for office supplies this year, or we're not projecting any in the following year.
They steal from the rest of us.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
Or borrow.
They borrow.
Permanently bar, okay.
We help.
Just as long as you're not in needing something and not appropriating it.
Come ask me.
Okay, all right. Good to go then. Any questions so far?
I guess the next on the agenda is the SIP.
Or lunch? All right, let's see, it is now 11:32. And we had originally decided to lunch at 11:45. So, do I hear a motion?
I would
Or suggestion? Do I have anyone else that would love to eat lunch? Okay. All in favor of eating lunch?
We're voting on it? I thought it was just you had the power of the gavel.
Lunch break. Yep. Go right ahead.
EIP in the December school board meeting. And this is just a quick refresher on this to formally approve this, so it can be officially taken forward to the county. I'm primarily going to be talking about the upcoming year, FY26. But before I do that, I would be remiss if I didn't, once again, be so grateful for the county's support and your support for the three big initiatives we have taking place right now, that being the high school HVAC system. Currently, they're installing the data cables for the new control system. They're in there from 3 in the afternoon till 9 at night. And they're also taking a look at the structural requirements for the new rooftop units. In case any modifications need to be done. Some of that work will be done over spring break to get ready for the big heavy lifting over summer. Currently, the RTUs are on track for delivery in early June. So there is no concern at this point that we're not going to have all the hardware we need to complete the project. But once again, it is a lot of work that is going to be done, and the high school will pretty much be shut down from 4 June to 8 August. And so all the principals have been aware, as well as the activity coordinators, in terms of all the summer events need to be moved to a different location. The other thing we have going on is the demolition of the portion of the Landmark Center that is not habitable right now. We have a design proposal from one of our term contract engineers, Dewberry, to do that demolition work and make the rest of the building right. Now that that portion of the building is gone, that request is at the county right now, awaiting a PO. Once they get the PO, that will get them started on that. And we're currently on track to begin that demolition in the summertime as well. In terms of FY26 needs, the final project is falls in the summer of 26, 27, FY27, that being Pocahontas Elementary School HVAC. And that is also a very high priority, number one, that we need to and are looking forward to getting done as soon as we can. That engineering work will probably start for that program at the end of this summer. So once again, we can purchase everything we need. In terms of the individual buildings, the high school, we have a list of what we're asking for this year, basically water heaters. 1 of 3 is currently operational. The roof, the press box, the fieldhouse HVAC system, cafeteria patio tables. Also new this year is the CTE greenhouse refurbishment and the ceramic kilns for the art rooms. In the Pocahontas Landmark Center, as you probably experienced occasionally, if not regularly, the HVAC system here is also struggling. We need to replace the HVAC portion in the A wing here, as well as the fire pump replacement is due, and all the electrical switchgear is circa early 70s, and we just can't get replacement parts for that, so that's something we desperately need to replace as well. For the middle school, no changes to last year's inputs. Flat Rock Elementary, new requirement is the existing public address system and bell system is obsolete. We've had one failure for the similar system at Pocahontas. We basically need to replace that system before it becomes a hard fail, and keep in mind that we rely on the PA system for that for emergency events. At Pocahontas Elementary School, it has the same PA system we just talked about. We've talked before about the classroom desks and chairs original to the 1995 opening of the school. In some cases, they're rusting, wobbling, chipped, and cracking. And we were replacing, obviously, the ones that are unsafe on an as-needed basis, but the ones that are basically they just need an entire swap out there, as well as the built-in furniture, otherwise known as the casework for the sink cabinets and the storage cabinets. They need to be replaced. The bathroom floor tile is stained and cracking, and the principals requested some noise absorption panels for the cafeteria and gym, and that's it. We're in the process of getting the additional work done on the front entry vestibule. Powhatan Elementary, much like Pocahontas Elementary, its furniture is also dated, in this case dating back to 1985. It also needs casework and the bathrooms refurbished. That, like Pocahontas, is a multi-year effort. The several pieces of the playground equipment that had wood that was rotting had been removed for safety reasons. We'd like to replace that with some metal/plastic structures. And that's about covers Powhatan Elementary. The buses need to replace, are on schedule to replace 5 of the buses.
Can I speak to that? So on the transportation page, we were only given replacement needs for up through fiscal year '29. And we have a new director now, I've asked Key and Josh to evaluate our inventory so that when we come back next year, we'll have numbers for the out years. But I just wanted to point that out.
In the common items we need to replace across the division, we had hoped to replace the auditorium curtains at Pocahontas Elementary, the PHS window blinds, and paint the interior of Flat Rock High School, as in Flat Rock Elementary. As most folks are aware, the asphalt in the parking lots and service driveways need to be repaired or resealed. In some cases, like the Pocahontas East Side Teacher Parking Lot, the PHS Victory Lane, and portions of the high school bus loop need to be resurfaced. It's been too long since they've been repaired. And so if you look at the total request for FY26, it comes to approximately 11.5 million. Once again, all these things are things that we desperately need to replace. Any questions for me?
Madam Chair.
Yes, Mrs. Hurd.
So for clarification, once we agree that this is the 11.5 we're asking for, it goes to the Planning Commission, and then it goes to the Board of Supervisors. Because okay.
This has been sent to the county. They have.
So they've gotten this, and that we have said that this is what we want.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So this is we're just going over it, but we've already said that this is what needs to be done, correct?
Yes and no. This was brought forward in December for first review, in January for second review, but there wasn't an official vote.
Okay.
And so today we're going to take an official vote on
Right, so
it.
we need to vote, and then it goes to the Planning Commission and then to the Board of Supervisors.
How do they do it over there on their side?
Yeah, I know, well, I used to be on that side, so that's why. I know, yeah. And these are all, I was asked, these are all level 1 requests, correct?
Yes.
They're our top priorities.
Yes.
Yeah, but I mean, I was asked, because in the engineering report, how they leveled them. So I got a call and I was asked, in the 11.5, were they all level 1 requests?
I did respond to an email at Dr. Tigan's request in terms of which ones were level 1.
Okay.
As opposed to answering that, I'd really like to go back and research, but some of these are new ads, like the kiln,
Yeah,
and something
well,
like that.
that's a safety thing.
Yes, so, I just want to go back and review that before I answer that.
Okay, because I was asked that too, so I'll just say, you'll be hearing from the experts.
I can definitely get that information to you before the end of the week.
Okay, but we're going to vote today? Okay, perfect.
We vote right now, y'all. Can I have a motion?
Madam,
Can I have clarity?
So you may have clarity.
Mr. Benway, you said 11.5 is what we're needing but your summary says 17.6.
Some of that's already been financed by the county. If you look at
Gotcha.
the last 2 pages.
All right. No, I got it now.
Yes, sir.
I'm with you.
Our ask is 17.6. They've already financed
Funded,
6 million.
yes, I got it, okay.
Thanks for the clarification.
Yep.
okay, Madam Chair, I
Are
make
you
a
clear?
motion.
Yeah, it's the roof stuff, or it's the HVAC stuff.
Okay, all right,
I'm good.
all right.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Mrs.
I
Hart.
make a motion that we put forth our requirements for CIP for the year 2026 is $11,464. I'm sorry, $11,464,803 to move that forward.
I second.
Madam Chair, I'll make a second.
Mrs. Wade, second.
Oh, she did?
Yeah,
Oh,
yes,
sorry.
yes. Yes.
I thought she said, can I have a second?
That, no. No. Let's, District 1, your vote.
Aye.
District 3, your vote.
Aye.
District 4, your vote.
Aye.
District 5, your vote.
Aye.
District 2 votes aye as well. All right. Passes 5-0.
Thank you.
No, thank you, Mr. Benway, and Mr. Salzer for the efforts and work that you have put in, and Mrs. Holloway supporting these guys, keeping them on the right path. I know it's tough,
And Madam Chair.
especially
this is-
one of them over there. No.
Excuse me. Madam Chair.
Yes, Mrs.
This is a
Hart.
good lesson for the county to learn that you don't delay taking care of your facilities because ultimately you get left with a mess on your hands. So hopefully a lesson has been taken away from this because it's going to be painful for their end of the deal, I'm sure. So, thank you.
Okay, let's see where we go next.
Communications.
Good afternoon. I'm going to go through the communications budget. The first line,
Can you hold on 1 minute, just let's make sure they're all at the right
Tell
page.
us where, under what tab you are.
It's
still under section 8,
Under 8?
right before finance,
right after the high school, yeah.
about 6 back.
Is everybody in the right spot?
Not quite.
You don't have to wait for me. I've already reviewed it. Go ahead.
Communication.
So one thing to know about my budget is when I was hired, this budget did not exist. So this is we've just had our first full year of actually seeing what would be involved in this budget. So that's why there's several changes. Advertising is staying the same. The communications postage, actually, that's not mine. That's just the division, the admin building's postage. So that just is housed under my department, and it's staying the same. Travel conference, that is going to the CHESPRA, which is the state, and the INSPRA, which is the National School PR Association. I'm a department of one and don't really have any other peers in this division, so my connections and learning about the current topics and how I can best help our school division communicate come through the conferences and the connections I make at those. The local travel is mileage, and again, that goes down to me going to the schools a lot to take photos and videos for our social media for our projects. The mixed due memberships is, again, those same two organizations. Office supplies is, my needs are minimal. I try and keep costs really low. Furniture and expenditures, the same. They're really, I have everything I need for the most part. If I need something, it usually comes out of materials. And the software, the FOIA, we decided not to go with that, so the majority of my budget, the majority of that amount that wasn't used to adjust this year for the costs we just didn't understand yet with my first year budget. So that's why you're seeing a good reduction, because we decided to not go with that paid software FOIA request. I'm still doing those. And we have the county option for the same software if we decide to go that route. But right now, it's been manageable the way I'm doing FOIA that Ms. Allison set up when she was the FOIA director. So we don't need that software, and I don't want to try and get that in next year's budget. Any questions?
I'll make a comment, though. In all the classes and webinars and things that I've been taking over the last year, 2 years, one of the most important things that they tell us is that we need to be telling our story. And it's so good to know that once I go and learn that, and I go, oh, we're already doing that through the knowledge of our superintendent, and how she knows that that's something we should already have been doing, and that now we are doing a good job of it and hope to do an even better job of it, because we always work to get better at everything we're doing out here. And I appreciate everything that you're doing for the school system, and I think the community appreciates it as well.
I appreciate it.
Any other comments or questions for Ms. McFarland?
I just make a comment. It's nice to see the refreshing updates on Facebook, that represent the school in a positive manner, so appreciate that.
Thank you.
We're at the end of the day.
Yes. I was doing the monthly town hall meetings, and I didn't schedule one in January and February because I always did it the third Monday, and they were school holidays. And I found out on school holidays, parents take holidays too. And so the people that contacted me asking me about when was a town hall, I've responded back to them saying that I thought, and these people that contacted me said that they can never come to anything during the day because they're employed, and they really appreciated how I was doing it at 7 o'clock at night. And so I'm intending in the next week or two to schedule a town hall meeting, so that not for people not to talk, but just to let them look at the budget and share with me their thoughts on what we have so far and some issues and concerns that they have that maybe we've overlooked, because they may not be parents, they may be taxpayers. And if anyone else would like to join in on doing that, let me know. And I'm looking at a place, I'm thinking that I probably will try to do it here so that it seems more inviting to everyone in the county and not just District 1, if I do it where I usually did it at Mannequin Church. But I know people have commented the balanced calendar, they really liked that because they felt like that they could come and they could talk and ask questions and get it answered right then and there. And they said I hate to say this, but some people said they felt like it's kind of worthless coming to school board meetings. They can sit at home because they don't get answers to their questions, that they make public comment, but nobody can answer them. And so that's why they really like being able to come to, I call them town halls, but it's kind of like a meet and greet or something, so that they can actually share their thoughts. And so what I thought I'm personally going to start doing, I may not do it every month, but when there's a hot topic, which y'all took, Dr. Tigan took care of that balanced calendar thing. I didn't have to worry about that. But since the budget's the next big thing, and people ask questions about where the money goes and what they would like, this and that, I'm thinking that. So if anyone would like to join in on that, let me know. If it's more than 2 of us, we'll have to make public notice of that. But I feel like it needs to be done, as I spoke with Dr. Tigan yesterday, in the next week or two. And people really liked that. They felt like we're not sitting up here, that we're sitting down there with them and listening and listening to their opinions. And it made people really liked that balanced calendar because they felt like, no, they didn't like the balanced calendar. Take that back, erase that. But they liked the fact that they could ask questions and felt they were listened to and that, their concerns were addressed and so forth. So, anyway.
Ready?
No, I have not. So that's why I didn't want to set anything till I approach the board about it, because I really think that's very useful, making the public feel like they can come just have conversation. We could say it, beer, come have beer and conversation about the budget, B&B. No, we can't do that. But anyway, I just want the public to feel like we always want to hear what they have to say, even if they don't have a child in our schools, but they're taxpayers, and who knows, it might help to get more people be involved and interested in the school. Yeah. So,
Wade.
thoughts on it, let me know.
Mrs. Wade?
I don't have any comments right now.
Dr. Taylor?
I'll just say thank you to all of our team members who worked diligently over the last several weeks to put all this together, and we appreciate it. Thank you for doing it. It went really fast today, and looking forward to Thursday.
Mrs. Ward?
I would also like to thank everyone for coming and doing their presentations. And Debbie, the work that you do for us is stinking amazing. Thank you so very much. I do have one request. I'm publicly announcing I'm getting old. Could you please make the typo a little larger next year?
Do my best. I know. You see.
No, I was literally with the magnifying glass last night. I had a magnifying glass.
I've already made that note for myself, so.
So, but you've done an amazing job, and thank you. So I know it's a lot of work, and thanks to your team and everything. Thanks to the whole team that's done that. Yes, good work. Also, I'd like to add on, I have met with I've had 2 town hall meetings in District 5, and they've been very successful. And so I would like to see that and be a part of that as well. I think they really like the fact that they can get together, and we want to be able to meet with the community, not just my district, but, open to the whole community and have dialogue. And I think that's really key to make sure that the public knows that this is their public school system. So whether you have a child here or not, if you live in the community, you pay taxes, you're part of it, we want to hear your input. So, and I think this is huge. Earlier this morning, I was texting my 2 key players for District 5 this morning. Are you going to be able to come, today and Thursday? These are the time, and they're like, sorry, I have to work. So I think that would be really beneficial if we could, want to work together and as a board and have one big one, or we can do them individually. So those are all my comments. So thanks for all the work.
All right, thank you everyone for coming and the work that you've put in to make this day possible. And we look forward to seeing you on Thursday. Dr. Tigan, do you have anything?
No, just echo the gratitude for everyone, not only the time put in before today, but for taking the time today to go through the process. I think when everyone understands, what the budget is and why, and, it certainly helps to advocate for the school system. And, we have things that we know we want to do better. And, if we want to continuously improve, it does require a greater investment in the school system. And, we are known for having an exemplary school system, and we just want to keep it that way, that it's current, up to date, and preparing our kids for their future. Thank you.
All right, since no one has signed up for public comment, I